Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to a cozy night full of Super Mario Odyssey Darker Side here on Global Speedrun Association. And I am joined by the very best runners of these categories, Timpani and Bayleef. And commentating with me is Dangerous, who's not only a great streamer, but he's also going to be commentating with me through this night. What's up, Dangerous? How are you?
It's going great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I've been waiting for this one for a long time. I'm super happy to feature Darker Side on GSA. We have the best race you could imagine. And even though Dangerous, you and I, we will probably be talking a lot about the category Darker Side in general, we do have the man here, the submission master, the world record holder, Bayleef, who can probably give us a little rundown, at least as far as this category goes, if he's available right now. But yeah, Bayleef, if you can hear me, what is Darker Side? Why is it great? I guess not. Let's go over to Timpani then in that case, who's also.
Sorry, I was muted. Sorry, that's on me. So Darker Side, the objective of the category is to first collect 500 moons, and then afterwards you need to finish the Darker Side dungeon to collect the final multi-moon. So by doing this, we're actually going to achieve world peace in the process. And if anyone who doesn't know what that is, we basically have to get achievement moon 45 from Toadette. That's the simple version. And then we backtrack to almost every kingdom. The only kingdoms we don't go back to are, I believe it's Ruined and Cloud, because they have like 8 moons in them, so they're not worth it. So instead of loading up the Odyssey each time, we abuse warp paintings, and then we just kind of collect it up for one big dump. And throughout the entire run, there's numerous amounts of death planes we traverse over, and if you mess up one of those or the game eats your input, you're gonna lose like 30 seconds. So there's a ton of tricks that we put in the run to just save like 5 to 10 seconds each, but at the cost of twice the amount. And your final time is basically determined by how many of those you can get.
For sure, and we do see Timpani, our other racer right here, doing one of these very important quote-unquote sequence breaks slash tricks right here, which is the inverted pyramid clip. We have been talking about this on this channel.
Oh yeah, so inverted pyramid on 1.2 is completely different than 1.0, 1.1, or anything pre 1.2. It's actually, the positioning is very precise, as you can see from Timpani's screen. So basically, there's a certain setup that we use, and within a very small, it's not pixel perfect, but the framing is very tight. So you want to be in that position and then just roll cancel your way through. On 1.0, you just walk through basically with the roll cancel on the left side. Super free. And then in Snow Kingdom, I was practicing it earlier. You can either do, you have 3 options for another sequence break. You want to do upstairs snow clip, which is at the bridge. That version loses you about, I think I timed it to be around 12 to 15 seconds, depending on how fast you can get it. If you get, compared to downstairs first try, of course. Then you have the upstairs moon clip. You get 1 shot at that, and if you're not good at moon clips, good luck getting it, I guess. And then what I'll be going for is downstairs snow clip, which is, I would say you have less than half a second to start your roll cancel after you touch the ground, and if you don't do it fast enough, you're not going through. But the setup for downstairs is the same pre 1.2. It's just a lot faster. So those are the major sequence breaks that we do, and we do those because of routing options that you'll see when we come back to Snow Kingdom.
Yeah, and the reason that we do that is twofold. You skip a lot of the story sequence in the beginning, and then in the end it actually cuts out a couple of cutscenes, which makes it very fast versus traversing the regular story. So definitely something to do in the speedrun for this category, and a couple other categories as well. It looks like Limcube's just dropped out here, but we'll pick him back up right away. So Timpani, what would you say is kind of the number one thing that you're looking forward to in this run that you know you're kind of nervous about, but you will have been practicing a lot lately?
I've been practicing trying to stay awake. No. All right. I did do a lot of TNT before this race because I like to make sure when I'm doing a race, especially for Darkside, I like to do it a few times, and if I'm not going to get it, I typically am just going to back it up and do Metro Shop in the race. But I was getting it pretty solidly, so I'm probably going to do that. That is obviously that's even if I'm getting it well today, it's always something I'm going to be worried about because it's a super risky trick. I am worried about IP clip, I guess, because I mean anything can happen. But outside of that, I mean most of the categories, just movement from moon to moon is typically okay. But there's just those few hard tricks scattered in there.
Yeah, that's right. And I guess an important difference to note here is that there are a couple different versions of this game. We've been talking about 1.2 and how the clips are a little bit harder to execute. Nintendo did something that they tried to eliminate some of these sequence breaks by making it harder to accomplish these clips. 1.2, they can still be done. It's just a little bit more precise. If you're on 1.0, there tends to be a lot more leeway in the execution of your inputs. So these guys are playing on 1.2. It's typically considered the more competitive version, though Darker Side has a kind of a unique way of categorizing on speedrun.com where we actually separate the boards between either doing a frog skip or a no frog skip. And that comes down to the very end of the run. There's a frog waiting for you outside the Darker Side dungeon. And if you decide to do a little bit of a glitch in 1.0, you can just kind of skip over the dungeon entirely. These guys are going to be running the no frog skip category, which means that you do have to execute at least most of the Darker Side dungeon. And I'm sure we'll see why it's only most when we get there. But yeah, Bayleef, is there anything that you're nervous about for this particular race coming up here?
Well, I'm sure you guys could see my little adventure in Cap Kingdom. I think that has me worried just a little bit. Everything else I got just fine.
That jump is always like, sometimes it just doesn't register my second long jump off that post for some reason.
I'm worried about remembering to check the painting and wooded because I still don't like the reroute. But I have sticky notes on my monitor, so I don't forget to check it. But I don't know, the Metro. Metro can be really bad. Luncheon, I don't know. There's the big three for me is the two luncheon jumps, Cap Kingdom, and Lost. I guess it's 4 and Lost. I'm not really worried about the clips. It's just there's 4 big tricks that if you mess them up, it's over. Well, for me, it's over.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in a race setting, you're gonna have to figure out a way to get around all of that. But
yeah, I mean, I warmed them up, so I'm feeling pretty confident.
Excellent. I do consider you guys to be probably the 2 most consistent runners in this game at the moment. Like, it actually rather amazes me that, you know, even in the face of adversity, sometimes you just can always seem to pull everything off. You've always got a kind of a consistent way to back it up, even if it only loses you a couple seconds. Where, for example, for me, if I do something and I mess it up, it typically loses me quite a lot more time because I don't know the backups or I don't know how to execute properly. So this should be a very exciting race to watch. Should be very close.
Oh yeah, I've definitely put enough time to the category where I have several backups just in case.
Yeah, it's safe to say that
wrong.
you've been running Darker Side longer than I've been running this game in total. So it's a lot of time commitment. Do you happen to know how many runs you've completed? Do your splits say?
Let me check my splits. Let's see. I have 3 sets of splits. On this one, I have 18 completed runs, and on my vanilla splits, I have 74
That's
completed
crazy.
runs.
And of course, many others that didn't quite make it to the end, I'm sure.
Yeah, but there's
Alright.
been route changes, so I've only done 18 runs on the new route, but
that's with changing wooded second, I believe, or wooded first rather.
I don't really count that. It's not that big of a deal.
That's true. Very small time save.
It's just annoying.
Excellent. So it looks like we're ready to get started here. Good luck to both of these runners. We're working on getting LimQ back into the call as of this moment. But we're going to go ahead and start the race, it looks like. So good luck to you guys.
Cheers.
Now? I'm ready to...
All right, now these guys are just queuing up here. We're just getting ready to start the countdown here. This run really could go either way. It's a very exciting race to look forward to here. And 3, 2, 1, and they're away. Oh yeah, of course. So we're gonna see here the Cap Kingdom. Everybody's very familiar with this. You guys probably tuned in last week for World Peace. You're gonna see quite a similar route in the very early part of the game. These guys are looking to more or less complete the kingdoms because it'll be easier to collect extra moons later on. So you're going to see the first couple kingdoms very similar to that. Cap Kingdom, get to the end. We're going to collect a checkpoint as well to make the post-game easier as well. But otherwise, very straightforward. Now,
Dangerous. Can you hear me?
LimQ. Yes, he is back.
My biggest apologies. I literally never have connection issues, but I guess it gets all of us. And I think I still made it here in a very good time as we just start up with Cap Kingdom.
Excellent timing, yes.
Okay, I'm very glad. So, not sure if you've touched on versions yet. Obviously, we're only in Cap Kingdom right now. But these two runners are on version 1.2, which doesn't actually matter too much as far as the sequence break FMS goes in this category. It's not even that big of a deal. But we talked about roll cancel clips earlier, I'm pretty sure, which is a mechanic that we abuse later in the run to literally skip story sections. These get way harder on 1.2, right?
Yes, I would say they are quite a bit more difficult. Like, it's a knife through butter in 1.0. You just have to roll cancel towards the wall. But in 1.2, the positioning is a little bit trickier. The timing is a little bit trickier. So it's a little bit more of an effort to execute properly. So it's definitely a harder trick in this particular version.
I agree. Absolutely different way of performing these clips, especially if you are used doing them in 1.0. But these two definitely are used to do them in 1.2. They have been running all of the longer categories. And for these longer categories, for Darker Side, it's arguably, I mean, not the fastest version, but for AOM and going into the very long categories that Timpani runs, these categories are definitely the fastest when it comes to loading time because you can play them on the digital copy. But both of these runners actually with very solid Cap Kingdoms. Cap Kingdom, the first kingdom in the game. We know it pretty much very well from any percent. A small difference that you might have spotted there is that both of them actually got a checkpoint at the Cap Tower, which is going to be very important later in the run.
So there's a couple of purposes, actually. We're going to be getting a couple of arbitrary Toadette moons at the end, just because they're really fast. If you happen to do those kinds of things along the way, you can get a Toadette moon for an easy 8-second moon. And as well, you're going to be revisiting the Cap Kingdom, so you want an access point to spawn up to quickly without having to do that frog room again.
And yeah, while we are in pretty known areas right here in Cascade Kingdom, obviously in top level any percent you might not see these cutscenes here, but this is a good time for us to touch on Toadette in general, because this entire route is pretty much based around Toadette, which is going to be our little NPC. I mean, you guys might know Toadette, the female version of Toad. She's going to be giving us a lot of achievements, and these achievements can come from various objectives, such as capturing a certain amount of enemies, getting a certain amount of checkpoints, doing a certain amount of timer challenges, 2D moons. All of these things come together, and they are very quick moons, because all you need to get them is literally talk to Toadette. So we pretty much base our entire route around these achievements.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, there are some cases where the moons themselves, there's kind of like a cutoff point for how fast a moon should be. Sometimes those moons go over, but the reason that we still take them is because they'll achieve a Toadette moon and get a free moon later. So it kind of like balances out in that way.
But yeah, exactly. Race starting out very close here. I gotta say, 1.0 races usually are a bit more lenient when it comes to a close race at the very start. When you watch 1.0 races, FMS can always be a huge deal. We don't have to deal with that one. One small difference that we might see here, but I'm pretty sure none of these runners are going to be going for it. If you guys have watched any percent recently, you might know the chest clip, which is a moon clip we abuse in the 1.0 route of any percent, where we clip through the ceiling using one of these chest moons. And I think it might just barely be faster to collect this moon here in the first visit using that moon clip to get back to the globe instead of grabbing it later, because later when we revisit Cascade, where the next chances where we could get the moon, we won't have Cappy available because Cappy will be stuck at a timer challenge, so it might just barely be faster to get the chest moon in first visit. But as far as I see here, both of these runners will be going straight to sand.
That's right. And we might see Timpani do that. He's actually talked about perhaps routing that in somehow, which kind of changes the order of when you would do the timer challenge and when you would get another moon, and, you know, in order to get Cappy back in order to do the clip. But we're talking about a very small time save there, if anything.
Definitely agree. A very minor thing I do want to mention, though, and this is a mindset that obviously is different for runners going into longer speedruns, longer categories. These small things can add up very quickly. There's a lot of these very small things, like these small strats, these small better routing options, these small movements that you can do, and they add up so much over the course of this run that it actually might end up deciding a race in this case. So definitely want to be looking out for these small optimizations and tricks.
Yeah, I've always said that it's the difference between a marathon and a sprint. You know, in any percent, a sprint is very accurate because you're going for all like the quickest things. You know, that you kind of have to. You have to do all the hard stuff. You reset more often. But in a category like this, you can't get hung up on the smallest mistakes, or else you'll never even get to the end. So,
I definitely agree. But yeah, Sand Kingdom, a place that is pretty much haunted right now. Pretty weird looking place. There's ice all over the desert, which doesn't really make sense. But yeah, what we want to do basically in this entire route, we are going to have a small difference when we come to Wooded later. But since these moon rocks that Bayleef mentioned in his pre-race interview, they are rocks, and we are actually about to see one as we roll past them here in sand, even though it's not activated yet. These moon rocks become activated after you beat the game. Might actually not see them on the screen right there. I was mixing that up a bit with any percent, but there would be one right to the left of them. And these become active as soon as you, one, beat the game, and secondly, restored world peace to the kingdom. World peace in most cases means defeat the boss, make sure the kingdom is peaceful again, which obviously is in most cases these bosses. But yeah, that's why we want to achieve world peace. In any case, it might not seem as fast because it always revolves some pretty long cutscenes, but we do need these moon rocks. They give us access to insanely fast moons in the revisits.
That's right, including some moons that are just hanging out in the open as soon as you open the moon rock. So it definitely makes for faster moons later on, rather than just sticking to the ones that are available pre-game.
And we see both Timpani and Bayleef talk to the Sphinx right here, which is actually a 1.2 not exclusive trick, but the Sphinx clip, even though these roll cancel clips, and one of the very important ones is going to be coming up soon, are still possible, at least some of them. Sphinx clip is one of the few that hasn't proven yet to be still possible in 1.2. No one has actually done it, which is at a point where we just say it's probably impossible. But we still want to clip into this inverted pyramid.
Yeah, this is the first of the 2 sequence breaks we were talking about earlier. Definitely kind of a choke point in the run. Bayleef gets it right away. Timpani right behind him.
Right behind him, very
Perfect.
nice. Did take a few attempts right there, which is not a big deal in a long category like this. But that's what we want to see. It can go way worse when it comes to this clip. And we are going to be seeing another pretty important roll cancel clip later in the run. But that sets us up for a very nice start. Very nice to see that both of these runners get it pretty quickly.
It's kind of interesting that the roll cancel clip up ahead coming up in the run actually was replaced with a different clip that we ended up finding. If you're able to pull that off on the first try, you can potentially save some time and save having to do the roll cancel clip, which is arguably harder to pull off. So we'll see if any of those runners are able to do that instead.
And some any % runners and viewers might actually know this moon clip from some very crazy people that use that clip in any % to save a second. But yeah, that moon clip in snow is a way bigger deal in this category. Way more comfy to do and way more useful.
That's right. Arguably easier as well.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, these runners head into this small treasure chamber right here. Actually, that's a good point to talk about coins. We see both of them grabbing quite a few here. You don't need all of them. This entire route is basically based around, I think, like 1,000 coins is what you need.
That's right, yes. And for a couple different reasons. Because we do have to get 500 moons. So in some kingdoms, buying moons from the store tends to be kind of one of the faster moons available in the route. And for another reason, Toadette, one of her arbitrary achievements, just so happens to be collecting 1,000 coins. So we get a free moon just for doing that.
And these 1,000 coins are actually pretty lenient. You don't need to pick up all of these stacks lying around there. In sand especially is a good place where you can pick up some very quick coins. There's a lot of them lying around in the Sphinx room in the treasure chamber where they are right now. But guys, if you actually haven't been able to watch the World Peace Race, this is actually the first official fight with Harriet. You will not see this boss fight in any %, which is why we always say, okay, Harriet is supposed to be a refight in Bowser's, but that's the actual first fight, our first encounter, which is quite a bit more valuable for Mario in this case, because we will be getting a Grand Moon or a Multi-Moon from her, worth 3 moons.
Another reason why World Peace is good in this category in general is just because the 3 moons you get from boss fights tend to be, good enough most of the time.
Exactly.
Another point to add to coins and how easy they are in this route. If you play on 1.0, you actually are at a disadvantage in this particular instance, because another cool feature of 1.2 that's being constantly updated by Nintendo still to this day is the Luigi hint arts. They've been editing their Twitter like every week or so with a new hint art that just gets kind of soft edited into the game. And if you find the spot that these hint arts are hiding and you ground pound them, they will give you 200 coins. And I think there's probably about 12 of them available now, something like that. So we do utilize at least one of them in the run. You don't have to go out of your way for it, but you will see that one coming up as well.
But yeah, it's nighttime in sand, and sand gets quite a bit more scary as the ground goes. All of these mummies spawning, which are actually quite hard to dodge. And we are talking to GSA here, which actually also costs us some coins, and we don't even use him yet. Also need to play slots, another 10 coins that we basically use for that one. Oh, nice RNG here for Bayleef, winning the jackpot. What? Timpani actually winning the jackpot?
Both of them nailing it.
Incredible RNG for both of these runners. Old joke out of the way. We need this GSA later on, by the way. So that's why we paid him already in advance.
And Jaxie's a clever wordplay on taxi, of course. And he's just like a really fast way to run around the kingdom, so we'll definitely be utilizing him later.
So grabbing that story moon right here, that was actually the one we are supposed to grab at the very beginning of the kingdom. The 2D part of this tower will be revisited later on. And one thing that was actually quite interesting to see, might have been a little weird to watch, but these runners kind of awkwardly grabbed that checkpoint right there, which is obviously another instance. Basically, when you see runners grab checkpoints, it's of two reasons. We need checkpoints for that achievement, and we are probably revisiting that particular point later on.
That's right. And
that's
that one in particular is very important for the sand revisit. It's a very central location, and lots of those electrical wires come out of that tower, so it's easy to get around the kingdom from there.
So coming up, probably one of the scariest sections of sand in this route, leading up to Naklotech, is you can actually do some crazy movement in that section. These runners just went across. But coming up now on Bayleef's screen and also on Timpani's screen is going to be a trick where we skip having to wait for the bullet bill to bounce his head off, and yeah, Timpani and Bayleef both getting it, very nice.
Perfect, yeah.
Just jumping over with the head bounce to capture the bullet bill as fast as possible. And yeah, you see right there, big coin stack, but no one actually cares. We don't need those coins, especially the Luigi hint and Ruined later on will not lose us any time. It's basically free 200 coins with just a ground pound that doesn't lose time.
Yeah, that coin stack used to be in the route, but since the hint arts have been beginning to be released, it's become less important. You would still get that in 1.0, for example.
Exactly.
Upcoming here, we've got another instance of that same bullet bill jump. Oh, and Bayleef taking a fall on that time.
Oh, Timpani!
Timpani almost, but he got the backup on that, so he's good.
So not the biggest deal for Bayleef right here. He mentioned that earlier, there's a lot of these death barriers like these where you have to perform some pretty tight tricks to save some, not even a big amount of time, it's just a tiny bit amount of time, but runners go for these. It does pay off. But yeah, Timpani taking the death here. This run is very long. That's not a big deal at all. Both of them are going to be fighting Naklotech.
That's right
now. Interesting boss.
You know, a boss we've seen in Mario games in the past. Very familiar boss, very simple concept, except with Cappy being part of the picture here. A little added twist of being able to capture the fists and throw them back, which is kind of a nice touch, of course.
Yeah, this game has a lot of throwbacks, sort of the older Mario games. We are going to be seeing pretty much the entire family in this run, because this is, in my opinion, I mean, all unique moons literally gets every moon in the game, but this is like the best of all worlds, I'd say. Darker Side, you complete the final challenge, you get a ton of moons, and even though you might have seen, if you watched World Peace or any percent before, you might have seen these bosses and these early sections. We call that still any percent because we basically still beat the game just with a different route that pays off later. But everything that actually happens in post-game is so fast-paced, almost no downtime, drastically different and super fun to watch. So definitely going to be rewarded for the setup that we basically do here, and both of these runners beating Naklotech no problem.
That's absolutely right, and I cannot stress the fast-paced part enough, because when you are transitioning between kingdoms in the early game, you get that 20 seconds of leeway where you got to power up the Odyssey. In the post game, you don't get any of that. You're hopping in warp paintings, and in 5 seconds, you're back at it again. So it's almost like an hour and 45 minutes of just constant go. So it's a very fast-paced part of the game, and arguably some of the funnest moons to get as well lie in the post-game.
But yeah, sand done. Nope, not quite yet. We do need to talk to this tourist right here, which is basically going to be starting off a quest of this tourist and the metro guy there, visiting all these kingdoms around the globe, basically. And these quests are actually sequenced, so they will be in the metro kingdom next, and we do have to talk to them in metro, unless if we don't, they won't progress and they won't visit the other kingdoms. So we're going to be seeing this tourist quite a lot here. It's a very fast moon later on. Right here, he just talked to us, but whenever we talk to him in one of the kingdoms later, he's going to reward us with a moon.
That's right. And it might have seemed slow there, but like Limpcube said, it's very sequenced, and you can only do it in a specific order. So if you don't talk to him now, it'll ruin the entire chain.
Exactly. Bayleef for some camera dancing right there. And one very important thing that Timpani already did is these runners will have to select Wooded right here, which actually changes the game very drastically as far as the warp paintings go later on, because you decide by choosing kingdoms in a specific order. That's like way more different than in any percent. In any percent, you always only lose the time, basically, that select costs you, but we will be changing the way these war paintings lead us to other kingdoms later. And what Timpani did right there, which is the scariest thing for every any percent runner, he actually did that on purpose because he's actually purposely visiting the deep woods.
Who would have thought? And he's actually he's decided to go for a route that was just discovered recently. So if you enter the deep woods at particular points in the kingdom, you actually get dropped off in different locations. So you're going to see a bit of a different route in the deep woods from both of these runners. Timpani is going to end up opting out of one of the moons. The one that Bayleef is getting right now, actually the one with the chests, he's going to be opting out of that one and replacing it with another moon. It's theorized to be about 7 seconds faster. And in the grand scheme of things, you know, that could make the difference.
Yeah, shoutouts to JKB and Neo here for looking into this route. But Bayleef showing the traditional deep woods route, which is obviously also working, and 7 seconds in the grand theme are not as much. And then once again, because we skipped that moon, it's actually heavily dependent on how well your execution is on that moon you pick up as a backup or like as a replacement, which is in some cases the Tiles moon in Peach's Castle, which is actually quite tricky to get optimally.
That's right, and sometimes it's a shot moon along the way. There are a couple of shot moons that got routed out recently just because they were borderline too slow.
But yeah, what happened right there is Bayleef actually intentionally, and Timpani basically did the same, led the T-Rex here, which we cannot capture immediately. That's not like the T-Rex we see in Cascade Kingdom. He actually wears a hat, which makes him immune from capturing. So we do need to basically lure him into a wall to capture him here, and we need him to break all of these rocks and reveal these very fast moons. Actually, Deep Woods moons intentionally are very quick. But Timpani already done with this. Bayleef still has to get the timer challenge. Once again, seems pretty slow, but don't forget the timer challenge achievement. But don't forget, Bayleef picked up one additional moon after he's done with this.
Yeah, after Bayleef grabs this one, he's going to be taking that beanstalk up. He planted the seed ahead of time so that by the time he gets back to the beanstalk, it's already good for him to go.
Oh, Timpani opting for moon clip right here. Probably trying to skip the switch. Does not get it. It gets the style moon clip, which is probably just a little bit faster than just jumping back down, still opening that gate.
And probably much safer, to be honest.
For sure.
And this kind of goes back to the longer versus shorter category thing, where in the short category you might go for something like that because you know you have a lot less time to work with. But in a long category, if you don't save the 6 seconds, then you're probably not going to hurt yourself in the long run. So
once again, if you watch any percentage which darker side, you can be easily confused. Like, why would Timpani not get these very fast any percent moons on the way right there? There's the Maze moon. Why wouldn't he get it? The thing is, all of these sections drastically change after we hit the moon rock. This maze in particular will have some moon shards that we can actually collect pretty quickly on the way, so it gives us access to an additional moon. Definitely want to pick up that one later on, so we will be skipping it for now.
Yeah, when the moon rock opens up, it kind of opens up different routing opportunities, and some of the 80% moons kind of fit themselves in nicely with those routing opportunities.
Well, Timpani going for flower rocket storage, going for flower road skip, which is there's a lot of flowers in this game and apparently also a lot of roads. But Timpani skipping that one. We know that trick also from any percent and pretty much every category that goes over to this tower to grab that nut. Yeah, pretty risky strat once again. Doesn't save as much time, actually looks very fancy. Timpani probably not actually saving time because he did have one failed attempt. But yeah, getting that any percent nut on the tower, Bayleef will do the same. And when you look at the moons right now, Timpani is only 5 off, and if we think ahead, yes, Spewed is actually gonna be enough for us to leave this kingdom again. We did get these Deep Woods moons in this visit. And yeah, I talked about earlier how we want to get the world peace state in every kingdom. And Wooded's world peace... Oh no, Timpani almost falling down.
That was a close one.
But yeah, Wooded's world peace is actually not acquired once you beat Spewed. Torque Drift, the UFO boss, is gonna come in and try to steal some flowers, but we will be taking care of him later on. It just happens to be in a better order that we can basically fight him when we revisit this kingdom, because the painting is pretty close to the fighting arena.
That's right. And World Peace is just kind of convenient to do for every other kingdom, except for this one. So it's a bit of a journey, and we already have the moons we need to continue on, so we can just continue to the next kingdom here.
But yeah, Bayleef picking up some pretty fast coins. Once again, the coins that doesn't lose you any time, you can obviously pick them up just to be safe. It's just the coins that lose you time. You can be picky on these, especially since we have these Luigi hinterts and so on, and some pretty convenient coin stacks on our way. So probably want to be choosing the coins you actually get.
That's right. Usually coins that don't lose you any time are the ones that you go for. So, for example, in the boss fights, like when the Brutals drop their ring of coins, it's usually not going to lose you any time to just throw your cap and try and grab as many of them as you can. But in the case of, like, say, the Sphinx Vault, we've opted to only grab 1/2 of those coins just because grabbing the other half is not worth the 1.5 time.
Exactly. But yeah, as promised, and I'm actually interested what Bayleef is going to do here, because I know that he's been opting to actually at some point, was quite a bit of time back where he got the snow hint art right here. We did time it to be faster later on in the revisit though, so not doing that anymore, so no more differences as far as routing goes.
Yeah, Lake is very much like any percent. Basically just going to collect the amount of moons that we need as fast as we possibly can and then leave. And yes, the hint art is there as well. So we'll just be making sure to grab that.
It is not yet. Hint art's in particular, actually it's quite weird how hint arts behave. Some of them are there immediately, like the one in Snow Kingdom. But yeah, the one in Lake or the one in Luncheon, we actually do need to progress the story before they actually appear.
Some of them require world peace, as is the case with Lake. Some of them actually require us to open the moon rock, as we were talking about in the post game. You'll see that the one in Bowser's Kingdom is actually not available until they've opened up the moon rock. So really weird kind of hint art system that they have going, but we utilize them all the same.
One thing that I actually want to point out looking at these runners' paces right now is that Timpani, even though he is ahead, might not be as much ahead as he seemed after the death that Bayleef took in Sand, because Bayleef did get this additional moon in the Deep Woods, and right now, if we look at any percent and how the timing of these moons work out, I think Bayleef actually caught up quite a bit. And yeah, once again, a very important checkpoint right there. We've talked about checkpoints previously, and this checkpoint is one that you usually get unintentionally, and any percent you just roll over it, but this one, you want to watch out for that one. You want to get it, because also Lake is a kingdom we will be revisiting later, and that's a very convenient checkpoint to have available to you to warp there. But yeah, Timpani just defeating Rango, not a big problem for him as Bayleef comes up to Rango, and yeah, his Timpani's lead actually shrunk a little bit, I think. Bayleef has been playing pretty well, and once again, he is 1 moon ahead, technically.
Yes, that's right. Timpani did skip the one in the Deep Woods, which he'll have to replace later. But still looks like we have about a 25-second difference between the two. It also looks like Timpani opted out of getting the ground pound moon on the shore here the first time, but he's probably going to grab that on the way to the hint art. Or perhaps on the way back. That's interesting. I've never actually seen that before.
It does feel right. So
it does.
One thing that you could even potentially do there is maybe like throw your cap towards the globe and use that downtime while the moon is unobtainable. But yeah, Darker Side, even though it has been around for quite a long time, it's massive. We get 500 moons, I guess 503 if we go through the entire thing successfully. So there's a lot of routing options, a ton of moons that might just be faster because one small movement tech gets found. So obviously this category is developing every day pretty much.
That's right, and it's a very important kind of routing point to make, because with a game like Super Mario 64, for example, the routing is very kind of linear and straightforward because you start at the beginning and you end at the star. Whereas in this game, once you collect a moon, you're stuck where the moon was and you have to figure out where to go next. So it's definitely like infinite possibilities of routing, and it's all about trying to like piece them all together and figure out what exactly is the fastest one. And we're still not quite sure yet.
And it will especially get very interesting also from a viewer's perspective as we return to these kingdoms, hitting these moon rocks. You'll see moons all around, like all around the kingdom. There will be literally moons flying in the air, laying on the ground, a ton of ground pound moons. And yeah, we'll get to that as we revisit these places. But Cloud, literally exactly the same as at any percent. You can do these little manipulations to make Bowser jump a little less. But other than that, just gotta beat him.
Yeah, and this is one of the few kingdoms that we don't revisit just because post-game only provides us with maybe 7 or 8 moons. It's not really worth coming back here.
Yeah, exactly. This kingdom especially, if you have watched a All Unique Moons run, pretty quote-unquote, I mean, it's not boring, but one of the main challenges here is one of these picture matches where you have to like capture some parts of a Goomba and like place them together so you get a certain amount of points. Not the most hype thing to watch and definitely pretty slow, so we can skip out on that revisit. And it also doesn't have a war painting available to it. And there's only a few places that we will be revisiting later on with the Odyssey, Lost being one of them. And Lost, in my opinion, by far the scariest kingdom in Darker Side. Not only visit 1, but only visit 2. And this route is insane. This is so cool, so definitely want to be focusing on this right now. Start is pretty much the same, but after the first moon, it changes a lot compared to any percent.
That's right. We're going to be using quite a few different strats in this particular kingdom. Lots of checkpoints we're taking advantage of here. A couple of death warps as well. Really taking advantage of everything this kingdom has to offer in order to be the fastest and get out of here as fast as possible as well.
So yeah, death warp, so interesting. Haven't been able to route them in any percent yet, but especially in this place, since we have access to a very fast death, dying and basically warping to a checkpoint back through this death can be so handy. And yeah, Timpani literally only climbing up that entire section to grab the checkpoint. Needs to be careful to not grab that lower checkpoint right here because he would spawn there. And now he's heading through this 2D section. Then he's going to intentionally die to get back up top.
Of course, much faster than perhaps traversing back through the 2D section and finding a way all the way up. So
Bayleef going to be doing exactly the same. Carefully to not grab that checkpoint unintentionally. And another shop moon coming in here right now. Just happens to be in a good timing for us to grab that right here. The shop is at the very top of the Lost Kingdom. So it's a good time to get it. And we also obviously need a certain amount of moons to leave this place again. Oh, Timpani almost falling down. We do want to go down after that palm tree, but not quite yet. Gotta get the palm tree moon.
Yeah. Anybody who's familiar with any percent can attest to how dangerous this kingdom already is. The fact that we have to visit it twice in this particular run makes it extremely terrifying. Oh, that was a rough one. Timpani was able to save that. Just rolling right off.
Probably intended to long jump right there, but since you do that pretty much blindly after leaving that flower section, you need to do a very quick jump. He did save it, not a big deal. And he's going to be getting this cage moon and the cave moon, I guess, the stone cave moon. That's actually a pretty neat strat you can do. Not sure if Bayleef is going to be doing for it, where you get pretty much both in the same time. But I cannot blame anyone to not go for that. And that's actually a pretty interesting strat. Bayleef grabbing some quote-unquote free coins right there. But it's pretty risky, since if you miss that throw, you'll actually give your head to flip the...
That's right, yeah. And then you'd have to get back up there.
Yeah. But Timpani taking, by the way, another intentional death. And he's going to be doing one of the coolest strats in the route as far as pre-game goes, in my opinion, after he gets this glide-on moon where he flies over to the island.
Yes, and this definitely fits in with the strats that might save you only 6 seconds, but could potentially lose you far more. Let's see. Oh, and he nails it. First try.
First try, has been doing this for quite a long time. And Bayleef actually dropping glide. I'm not sure if that was intentional. I'm not sure if he does the twist and turn up treasure in runs these days. Maybe not. You can get a different moon later. You can get this moon with potentially with the binoculars later, which is this little telescope thing. But yeah, not opting for it and basically making this race super tight again, which is actually super cool to see. But yeah, moons are pretty much even now again, and Timpani did get this dram strat. I think Bayleef actually did this unintentionally, since it is definitely quite a bit faster to get that moon in the first visit. but makes it just so that we have a very tight-looking race. And it is in fact tight. These runners have the same amount of moons right now, just a tiny bit of difference in terms of which moons are faster. But yeah, heading into Metro.
Yes, it's true. So they're both. It looks like they're both going to have to find a backup at some point. Bayleef might not opt for the twist and turn later, just because it is a little bit slower without glide on. You can use a different strategy, but I find it tends to be a little bit more tricky. So odds are he will route in perhaps a shot moon, and Timpani might very well do the same.
But yeah, as far as Night Metro goes, there is a bit of a difference. If you see in World Peace, you pretty much do the same as in World Peace here. But yeah, we also do want to get World Peace and Metro. So we are going to be seeing the festival, which is one of the most liked parts of the run by any viewers and also by me as far as the music goes and the nostalgia goes. But other than that, also some interesting stuff happening in Metro. And for the first time, we will be seeing the seeds later. Very interesting to talk about them, but I think we wait until we get there, as they get this moon in nighttime, which is usually not done in any percent. We get this during the day.
Right, and they also grab the checkpoint on that helipad. Again, just for routing in the future.
City Hall is actually a very interesting place. I'm actually not completely sure if there's does the moon rock actually spawn a moon in City Hall? I don't think so, right? Like the chest moon is literally the only moon in this, even after you beat the game, right?
That's right, yeah. So as far as Darker Side goes, you're getting everything you possibly need to up in here. AUM collects some purple coins in here as well, and aside from that, there's nothing else to get. So
because you can actually visit this place in the daytime, and it does look different. Simply almost missing that checkpoint, which makes it so that they almost literally, by the same frame, capture that pylon, and they will also be fighting the Mecha Wiggler, which is pretty much the same as an 80%, has some RNG going, and you gotta be having some good aim.
That's right.
To make it work.
As well as a little bit of luck. These hitboxes are notoriously unfriendly, especially if the Wiggler ends up crossing over himself in any of his patterns.
But yeah, first phase, pretty lenient as far as the hitboxes go. I mean, they can kind of mess with you, but it's pretty much up to your aim. The second phase is the one where the RNG and the notoriously bad hitboxes, as this game pretty much has a reoccurring theme with them as far as boss fights go. I'm looking at you, Cockatiel. We'll be looking at him later. But yeah, let's see if this 2-cycle works out for Timpani. Getting a pretty weird pattern, actually. I do not like this at all, but he's
kind of hiding behind those golden orbs a little bit. He's just going to have to do some cleanup work. Bayleef seemed to have gotten a little bit of a nicer cycle there, so...
The sync is happening, though.
Finishing it up right at the same time, yeah.
Literally like 0.5 seconds, if even, ahead. As both of them are going to be... Bayleef also doing some camera dancing, which makes it look a bit different. But yeah, they will be heading into the day Metro almost on sync. Very cool to see. I'm hyped.
Perhaps one of my favorite splits in this run, actually. I do rather enjoy kind of jaunting around the city in this particular run.
So, in fact, there is some pretty risky and some pretty punishable jumps coming up here. Notoriously, the one after the cafe. I think these runners usually have this jump down these days, but you can fall, and falling there is pretty bad. But we'll see how it goes. So I promised you we are going to be talking about seeds, and that's something you only see in the very long categories because these seeds work quite interestingly. So they will be doing the same capture mode strat as in any percent, but after that they are going to be grabbing this checkpoint right here, and then they're going to be planting one of these seeds. So these seeds actually grow into a full moon, but depending on kingdom and depending on the seed, it actually takes a quite long amount of literally real life time for them to grow into moon, up to like 50 minutes, I think, on one of the seaside plants. So this really comes in handy later as we revisit these places, and the seed is basically grown already, so we take advantage of that.
Yeah, we definitely use the post-game to our advantage and plant all the seeds early in order to just pick up free moons, basically, on our next trip. And I think we've timed, or we haven't timed, but it's about 20 minutes for these particular seeds to grow, so definitely can't go picking them up during this visit. We definitely have to come back.
But yeah, wow. Timpani making up a tiny bit of time, I think, after his Mecha Wiggler here. His movement was actually very clean from the bench guy to Pauline and the drummer. But a pretty interesting thing is going to be coming up here, going to the bassist, which might confuse some people. Actually, it confused me when I saw it the first time. But they will be not be getting the super fast ground pound moon here from the Wiggler part, but they will be getting the checkpoint and talk to the bassist. And once again, this is where the entire revisit policy basically comes back. We do have some downtime in this park later. There's a lot of fast moons we can grab. And there's a dog who will be a good friend of us later in the revisits. So it just makes it so that it's better to actually get that moon later on.
Yeah, gives us something to do while we're waiting for the dog.
Exactly.
And here they're going to plant one more seed because it's really fast. The pot's just hiding behind the guitars there.
Mini Kobe and the real Kobe for Bayleef. Woo! Getting that one, sniping it into the pot. Pretty fancy stuff. And actually noticing, like, visually making up some time with that as Timpani played it a bit safer. But yeah, pretty much tight getting the guitarist. And only one musician to go. We do need some additional moves though.
That's right. And I think we're gonna see a couple on the tops of these roofs here. A couple quick ones. Ones that you've probably seen if you are familiar with any percent. We just approach it from a different angle.
So, Timpani, after he got this cafe moon, lost at the cafe, he's going to be making... I'm actually proud of myself for remembering that name. But he's going to be making that jump over to this little ledge right here, where he wants to look at the center. Bayleef also getting it. I trust in these guys. I would never think they would fail this one. They are obviously pretty experienced with that one. And the sync here is always amazing. Actually, still pretty much the same difference as they look at the hint art. And actually, we haven't really touched on what hint arts do, but we will get a chance later, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
As both of them are going to be heading into the sewers right now. I guess it gives us kind of a window. Bayleef with some unintentional movement there. But looking at these hint arts will actually unlock some pretty quick moons later on when we in other kingdoms. And these moons will be counted towards the kingdoms the hint art is watched at. For example, if we look at the hint art here in Metro, there is a picture of Lake Kingdom. If we get that moon later in Lake, it will be counted as a Metro moon. But in this game, in this category, we aim for total moons, so it just works out perfectly for us.
That's right. And they are very easy to grab. I think we already mentioned the Luigi hint arts. Oh, and Timpani taking a bonk, getting up to that platform. He's going to have to redo all of the sewer portion again.
Very, very punishing section to die. And there's this instant death poison on the floor here as Bayleef makes it through here just fine.
But yes, as I was saying, we did mention the Luigi hint arts. They've been kind of released by Nintendo. They give you coins, but these ones have already been kind of pre-built into the game, and they're just hanging around in all of the kingdoms. And they give you moons, so they're very, very quick ground pound moons to get later on in the post game.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Timpani unfortunately taking that death. It's not as big of a deal. There's definitely more punishing deaths in the route, but Bayleef is going to be able to hit the switch a bit earlier, and he's probably going to be able to go into the festival section quite a bit earlier. Which actually you can also lose and gain some time depending on how you do that 2D movement. It's quite interesting how even in this 2D section, movement can play a pretty big role.
Yeah, if you guys have seen World Peace, for example, we basically go from start to finish in this festival without really making any breaks. But there is one moon along the way that's just fast enough for us to grab, kind of hiding off the side route. And it's a little bit awkward to get up to, which is probably the #1 place that you can lose some time in this particular section.
Interesting backstory. When I was actually doing my first Darker set one, I had actually never seen that moon. I'm not even kidding.
Oh,
and
really?
I was going through the notes and I couldn't find it. I had no idea what do you mean celebrating in the streets. Really, I'm not going for these jumps there, which saves some time, but I think it might just pay off them to get these extra coins.
And it's also
some jumps there.
Also might have something to do with the cycles of the barrels too.
Mm-hmm.
By slowing down, he makes it easier for himself to make the jumps that he needs to make.
So Timpani going for sad jumps and Bayleef getting the very sneakily hidden celebrating in the streets moon.
lots of coins in the festival too. Really helps with the coin total, especially in 1.2.
Yeah, for sure. Grabbing these here pretty fast. Bayleef just skips on these last ones. Not a big deal. He's still having to go through this entire barrel section right here. And Timpani is actually, in fact, on 2 health. We do not want to see any festival deaths. This death in particular being a ginormous potential time loss if you actually happen to die.
Indeed, because you do have to go right back to the beginning of this whole section. So not a fun place to die, and definitely a run killer. If you're not used to the festival.
Oh, very clean jump there from Timpani. Respecting his play here. Wow, this kill on DK was also so smooth. So we were worried, but not really any reason for Timpani playing well. And talking to Pauline to gain the multi-moon. So playing pretty well through this festival, but both of them not any major flaws.
Yeah, very solid still for both of them. You can they're still incredibly close. Even with the one death from Timpani's side, we're still within about 15 seconds of each other. So, very good play so far.
And we do have a little welcome again to our tourist guy. We have been talking about him in Sand Kingdom, and now it actually pays off that we did that little detour. Because he's in Metric Kingdom right now, and all we need to do is talk to him for a free moon. That's actually quite a cool strat you can do. They're not both of them not opting for to do this little capture warp where you hover Cappy close to the pylon. I'm actually not quite sure if it's worth at all. It's pretty stylish though. But yeah, tourist paying off, and he's going to be moving on to the next kingdom. We will be seeing him later.
Yes, that's right. And off to the Snow Kingdom next. This is a very interesting kingdom for this particular run. This is the next of the sequence breaks that we're going to see. It's going to skip a lot of story content. We're talking about 3.5 minutes here. There are moons connected to these story moons that we're skipping, but by doing this sequence break now, we cut out a bunch of cutscenes in the post-game that would be kind of associated with opening the barriers to this final area in the Snow Kingdom. And yeah, it's a huge time save. And there are actually multiple ways of doing this sequence break, so it'd be very interesting to see what these runners opt into doing here.
And I'm pretty sure we will be seeing a difference. Timpani pretty confident on his moon clipping. And another thing definitely worth mentioning, Bayleef getting that checkpoint over the ice cavern. I think it's called the ice cavern or something. As far as the checkpoint name is considered, and also grabbing that hint art once again, set up for the revisit policy. It will pay off so much when we actually revisit these kingdoms. You'll see how much setup we actually do to make the post-game route work. But yeah, I'm pretty sure we might be seeing a difference in terms of gaining access to the Bound Ball section, which is the World Peace event we need to basically finish in snow.
That's right. It looks like Bayleef is already going for this ground pound moon, which means he won't be going for the for the moon clip rather, because he's going to hop down into this Goomba room that Timpani is entering now. Timpani opting to do it first, and then he'll kind of go back up the stairs and do the moon clip last.
So routing differences always look very interesting when you look at them. Bayleef obviously clearly ahead by 2 moons right now. It's definitely going to be super interesting to see how this will pay off for Timpani though, because the 1.2 version of the downstairs clip into the Bound Ball section can be very, very tricky. Bayleef notoriously being one of the very best at them. But if Timpani was to get that moon clip, it can potentially be a huge payoff for him. So we'll definitely see, we'll see the pace align again when they basically enter the Bound Ball section.
That's right. We do have to remember Bayleef is about 15 seconds ahead. So even though they're synced right now, Timpani still has to go back, grab those moons upstairs, and potentially pull off the moon clip in order to gain back that time.
And Bayleef is going to be setting up for his downstairs clip right here. Once again, very tight inputs. This can, in the worst case, actually take quite a bit amount of time. This clip, in my opinion, being the hardest one in 1.2.
I would agree.
If Timpani gets this move clip, it would be huge for him. He might actually pull ahead just using that particular clip.
Bayleef it looks like he went for it, but he's missed it. So he's going to opt for upstairs now. And upstairs is arguably a little bit easier than the one Bayleef is attempting to go for. But it is farther away and loses more time as a result.
looking at your screens right now, just 1.2 things. These clips are just very tedious, and both of them clipping at the same time. That's actually so hype. 1.2 upstairs versus downstairs, both of them clipping at the same time. That's hilarious.
Amazing. But yeah, again, it showcases also that, you know, downstairs is just a tiny bit faster as well.
True.
Because Timpani taking the upstairs, he did enter the warp zone just slightly behind.
True, the movement plays quite a big role here. And yeah, we need to talk, and you guys might notice from World Peace, we need to talk to this Chevarian guy. We will be racing with him, and right now, this is gonna be some time for you guys at home watching to maybe predict a time for the bound ball race that is gonna be taking place right here.
People who are familiar with Darker Side, and with World Peace know all about Snoodle and about the bound ball guesses. You know.
Usually we mostly consider like a time between 52 and like I guess 56 to be like viable options. Anything is possible though. I guess the very best can get like a 48, which is like world record kind of material.
Yeah.
But yeah, bound ball, pretty interesting style of racing, and Bayleef obviously starting ahead right here, but Timpani also just starting his race. Oh, just sloppy quite a bit there for Timpani at the start. The way the style of race works here is actually quite interesting, because in some places it's actually better to not activate, I guess, the boost the Chevarian offers you, but just basically keep your momentum.
That's right, and that's kind of the strategy there, is you kind of have to know which ones to bounce and which ones not to, in order to get the best time.
Very cool to see them both in bound ball. It's almost like it's a race between them. Obviously, Timpani still with a pretty comfy lead right here. Pretty solid second lap from Timpani as Bayleef is approaching his final lap. Let's see how he can close this one out.
Looks like he's going to be grabbing a 52 as well. That's very consistent from Bayleef. He normally manages to nab 52 times. Very good showing. One of the best at bound ball in this particular speedrunning community.
Yeah, and pretty confidently saying so. So Timpani did have a pretty sloppy first round, still managed to pull up the 56. All you really want to see is a time below a minute. Both of them obviously getting that one. In the grand scheme, these seconds do not matter as much, especially in a race setting. But I do like, especially coming from an any percent background where you want to save like 3 seconds with a hilariously hard trick like left side. It's pretty interesting to visibly see how much time you can lose, you know? Like just off of playing a bit sloppy in a race like this. Like 3 seconds is so much for any percent runner, but yeah. World Peace acquired. We need some additional moons to leave this place, and Bayleef is going to be opting for this rabbit here. Let's see what strat Timpani is going to be doing. But opting for the spin throw roll, very cool strat. Definitely saving time.
Strat. Yeah, I love that strat for that particular moon. Approaching it with a spin pound. You might see that happen with a couple other rabbits that we have to capture in the post game as well.
Definitely. All of these rabbits just pretty much ask to be spin throw rolled into, especially the one in Bowser's later on. Pretty sure that Timpani does that strat. But yeah, grabbing the pole moon right here. There's actually quite the interesting routing difference you can do in Snow later. I am pretty sure that both of these runners do not opt for the technically fastest route in Snow 2. We call these revisits basically Snow 2, Cascade 2, which is quite interesting. It actually revolves around a different painting jump, not the notorious snow ramp that a lot of you guys might know. But I don't think we are going to be seeing it today. Maybe in the future with some new Darker Side races coming potentially up on this channel. We do not know the future of this. But yeah, heading into CSET, which is, in my opinion, the most tedious and most horrendous and most terrible part of Darker Side. But we will still make it enjoyable for you, I'm sure.
Yes. As best as we can, anyway.
What do you think? What do you think about first visit Seaside?
I think it is probably not the most exciting kingdom. I do rather enjoy the boss fight in this kingdom, though. It feels very satisfying to be able to pull off the quick kill strats on this particular boss.
I can see that. Coming from a World Peace runner, I can see it, but yeah, it's we gotta go through. We gotta kill the boss. We gotta get the World Peace state to get the Moonrock later on, and yeah, a seed once again comes into play right here. And there's actually a pretty unique thing going on with this seed. I've talked about how these pots actually affect the amount of time a seed takes to grow. And we do not want to get the far right back pot, and Bayleef avoiding that one, because that seed actually takes, I think, 50 minutes to grow. Timpani also avoiding it. You do not want to get that one, because the seed might not be ready when you revisit.
It takes about double the time. There is, however, a backup available to these runners if they were to accidentally hit that pot. There's a little trick that not very many people know about. You could use these gushions that these runners are approaching to actually water the plants and make them grow faster. But of course, going out of your way to do that is not very fast.
Timpani pulling ahead because Bayleef did get this unintentional bonk at the end. Might seem a bit weird what these runners did there. I'm not sure if all of you have actually seen a World Peace run before, but having the Gushen dropped at that particular spot makes it so that you are able to recapture him after the switch cutscene, which is pretty fast. You want to get that.
That's right, because you're going to go up to the top of this lighthouse now. The game originally wants you to go through this kind of like underwater cavern area, and you know, it's obviously very slow. You have to swim. It's kind of annoying, but we're just going to skip.
So Bayleef just barely making that, almost ran out of water with his Gushen. This would have been quite terrible for him if he had fallen down there, because the Gushen from alone, like the way the Gushen works, it wouldn't have been able to get back up to this lighthouse. You need to basically approach these higher points, like part by part, like brick by brick, and basically higher section to higher section. And yeah, in this case, would have been pretty big time loss, but avoiding that.
Just barely. And now they're actually going to approach this any percent moon here, the way that the game intended you to with this Gushen. This guy's going to be our friend for a lot of this kingdom, actually, because he's going to let us access a bunch of different points and get up to the tops of these cliffs a lot faster.
Yeah, this is why I personally dislike this, but looking at what Timpani currently does, he's definitely also Bayleef, both of them having some pretty clean Gushen movement. It feels quite awkward, especially since, like most other categories, especially any percent. If you come from an any percent background, you do not use these Gushens at all actually anymore. Like the entire usage of Gushens is routed out if you do the flower rocket storage. So it's quite weird to control them. They were in the any percent route pretty much from the start, but were slowly routed out. But you need to get used to how you control them, and as you said, using them for almost the entirety.
That's right.
In Darker Side.
And it might look like they are done with them now, but they're actually just storing them in behind here, and they're going to use these checkpoints kind of in a cheeky way to refill their water, so that they can actually make it all the way across to this other canyon and keep the Gushen for just a tiny bit longer. And Timpani not quite grabbing the moon there. Oh, actually, they both opt to use the moon to refill. That's an interesting strategy I've never thought of before.
I was right about to point that out, because we've seen that earlier. The moons actually refill the Gushen's water tank because they can run out of water. I've seen people even get this moon with the Gushen again to just float. Timpani actually opting for that, Bayleef as well, because you can just make it faster to that next hot spring section where the last switch is hiding to activate the boss fight. And cool straight here, both of them doing it. Wow, sinking up, literally sinking up, as both of them dropped the Gushen into the lava and ground pounded to get that moon. Synced up, fighting the boss here, and that's going to be a big one.
Which means they're both approaching the Brigadier Mollusk Lancer III Dauphin of Bublane fight at the same time.
Shoutouts to you. Oh, that sync is actually...
It's amazing.
It's so satisfying to look at. As both of them capture the same Gushen, Bayleef actually capturing it a bit quicker. But yeah, depending on how this boss fight goes, notoriously boss clip being a thing that we might actually see paying off in this one, and also just execution in this fight here.
That's right. There's a bit of a behavior manipulation that we can do right before the very last hit of this boss, which will kind of make him do a weird thing, and he's going to go through the stage. If these runners can pull it off, you'll see him kind of clip through the hot springs in order to execute the final phase of the fight a little bit faster.
So they both actually exactly know where the boss is going to be going next. Timpani basically already sets up to get his hit in here. Hits him for the third time.
And there he goes.
Not getting Both of them actually not getting the... they both got the fast ground pound hit though, and pretty synced here.
Yeah, still very close. It looked like Timpani on his second hit was just a little bit behind the cycle, and that's why he lost that couple of seconds there, but still very close race.
Yeah, you can actually see some people ground pound the boss while it's still basically clipped into the hot springs land section, I'd say. Probably just a tiny bit faster than having him go through this section. But solid boss fights for both of them. Bayleef heading into... I'm actually usually confused because the sequence here is quite a bit different, but we do go to Luncheon next. That's still the same, and Bayleef heading into Luncheon with a slight lead.
That's right. And Luncheon, very, very drastically different from any percent, if that's what you're used to seeing. Because a lot of the quick moons in any percent tend to be kind of out of the way until post-game. So we're going to achieve world peace as fast as we can here, and it's going to take us in quite a bit of a different direction.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and yeah, looking at Cockatiel, I looked at him earlier, but he's going to be playing a big role in our first visit Luncheon route. But yeah, also quite a few differences as this route goes. For example, if you watch any percent, you know the first moon in Luncheon usually is the one on top of the salt pile. Won't be opting for that one. That's all I can tell you for now.
That's right. We're going to go exactly the opposite direction, in fact.
So, looking at these timers, Bayleef is literally only 2 seconds ahead, approaching Luncheon Kingdom. And as you said, we will be going towards this timer challenges once again, keeping track. These timer challenges all matter. Achievement wounds are going to be coming up later. I do actually always think about what we will be doing the Toadette section. There is going to be maybe a pretty cool tech. I'm pretty sure both of them are going to be doing it. Just recently found by Zinpals. I guess we all looked into the first person mode, but Toadette might look drastically different from what you know her. It's still far though until we see Toadette, I guess.
The new and improved Toadette. The less button mashy one.
So, and both of them actually, and that's gonna be like looking forward, be quite interesting. And actually once again, Neo, who has been one of the biggest routers and like theory crafters as far as the route and darker side goes. We actually found out that going to Luncheon for a third time just cuts out a little bit of menuing, a little bit of text skipping and costumes being available, messages. That going to Luncheon for a third time is quite a bit quicker, but since Bayleef actually opts to not go for that yet, it changes the splits, obviously. It changes the way you play the category quite a bit for a very small time save, around 3.5 seconds. Timpani decided to not go for that, so just so we have a cleaner race and not too much confusion going on, because it's obviously going to be confusing enough as it is when we basically revisit these kingdoms. As I said, a lot of fast-paced moons and so on.
Just like changing the order of the painting moons by going to different kingdoms in a different order changes the route drastically. This particular route change that we've discovered that saves 3.5 seconds would drastically change just how far apart these guys are, or by the looks of it. And you wouldn't really be able to tell who's quite in the lead. So they're probably both going to opt for just doing Luncheon all in one go rather than revisiting.
All right, so no turnip clip. It is actually possible, I guess it would be possible if you were on version 1.0 to perform the world peace, quote-unquote world peace turnip clip there to save just a tiny bit of time. But since we are so close to these pan bros, it's basically the opposite in any percent. We are pretty close to them, so it's just better for us to, especially in 1.02, it's not even possible to do the clip. So we just grab that moon the intentional way, heading towards the meat plateau.
Yeah, and it's notoriously frustrating to get that moon the normal way, because the way that the pan bro throws his pans can be kind of RNG, and you don't always have the best luck breaking open the cheese blocks.
And shoutouts to classic any percent days, because this room actually used to be in the any percent route, and it's still pretty close if you compare using that moon, those moons in this room compared to the Forks one. Still a very fast sub-room, but for Darker Side, it's obviously still very comfortable moons to grab, which are very fast. And we get them in the first visit here.
Yeah, and these guys pulling it off like it's easy.
Very clean. Also pretty fancy movement, leaving this section. You just instantly throw Cappy and blindly jump over to the hidden between blue rocks. I don't know all of the moon names, but yeah, that one. The ground
something among the mountains or something along those lines.
But yeah, obviously one of the faster moons. And Timpani and Bayleef pretty much still a very, very tight capturing this meat right here, heading towards that multi-moon.
Yeah, keeping it really close the whole way through. It really goes to show how consistent these runners are at, you know, keeping things safe, but also being able to pull off all of the tricks, making it look easy, frankly.
All right, and so there he is, the notorious Cockatiel. And starting off the sword, it's actually going to be super interesting. They will literally instantly warp back to where they just came from. It's just the game basically forces you to go back to the Odyssey because you changed the kingdom's state, but we instantly want to return. One important reason is a thing we've been talking about earlier. The hint art that both of them actually going to be looking at right now wouldn't have been available previously. It just wouldn't have been there. So it's there now. We look at it. We get a very fast moon in Seaside because of it later. And another thing that's actually quite interesting about Luncheon, as you change the state, as you grab that meat moon, and Timpani actually not making it up to that ground point with the fastest way, so he has to go for a little backup. But yeah, a lot of the checkpoints that you previously were able to warp to were not available anymore, and the Meat Plateau, one of the very few exceptions that's still available.
Yeah, Luncheon is an extremely weird kingdom with its phases. The absolute weirdest. It eliminates a lot of checkpoints. It like changes the geography, but only for this phase where you still have to make your way up to Cockatiel, and then it just kind of magically reverts back.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And in my opinion, as far as like sequencing and states go, Luncheon by far the weirdest one. Would it probably the most broken one as far as like out of bounds and like weirdness go? But yeah, Luncheon probably the weirdest one as far as like the states of the kingdom go. Brunch notoriously being the most confusing and weirdest thing this game has to offer. But yeah, we don't mess with that too much here in Darker Side. We play through the story right now, getting that Torch Moon. And yeah, Bayleef showing off a pretty cool strat to grab that Torch Moon. You could, I guess, capture the Piranha plant, but you can also just make it shoot to where you want it to. And Bayleef may be performing some pretty hype movement here. Let's see. This section actually is known from the Cooper free running that you can do. But yeah, Bayleef doing his own movement here, pretty fancy looking, pretty fast.
Yeah, not a lot of full category runners will opt for the optimal Cooper free running movement, you could say, just because
it is so risky.
It's a bit risky indeed. So if you can lose like 1 second just to get up there a quick way, but not the quickest way, then you should be okay.
And as we look at Cockatiel, the boss with the very weird hitboxes that Bayleef hits for the first time right here, I do want to shout out Rex for the subscription for Dangers right here, my co-commentator. Obviously, subs always appreciated. Support Global Speedrun Association. Big goals, big organization soon, making speedrunning more competitive. And thank you so much, Rex, for supporting. But yeah, Cockatiel's hitboxes notoriously awful.
Yes, notoriously. I want to throw my controller every time I do this fight, to be honest. Not only is he hard to hit from below, as you kind of saw with Timpani there, it took a couple of jumps. He's also hard to hit in the face. This third phase, in particular, managing to land on all the bubbles. You can see Timpani fell through there. Also incredibly difficult. It's just a hot mess of a kingdom. No pun intended, really. It's just, I hate this fight so much.
I can understand it. And Timpani coming from the AUM, I guess the AOM background, the All Unique Moons background, is used to this boss being not nice to you pretty much at all times, because he definitely has to fight this boss twice, which I really wouldn't want to do myself. So he's used to it, recovers quite well from the falling down part. Bayleef gaining some time on him. But yeah, once again, what we are looking at right now is literally the setup for all of the upcoming action happening very soon as we beat the game for the first time, I guess. I like officially beat it, but we haven't even closely unlocked Darker Side yet, which is our objective here in this category.
That's right. We still have a couple kingdoms to go to beat what we consider to be the any % portion of the run in itself.
There's one small problem here that I do need to mention, because Ruin is still in the game. It actually does not disappear. It does not disappear from doing nice things and restoring world peace. The dragon is still a thing. Pretty interesting difference, though. We do want to get a very fast moon that some of you might have not even seen before. And I'm pretty interested in how Bayleef is going to approach that one. There's a pretty cool fast strat you can do for it. Not opting for the very fastest movement here, but yeah.
Shoutouts to Neo for this strat.
It is quite risky. It is quite cool looking, but Bayleef not hesitating, doing that very fancy jump around. And that's obviously pretty fast. Makes it
very slick that way, yeah.
Dude, Neo's getting his shoutouts today. I mean, he deserves it. He's still putting in a lot of work for this category, so I guess he's got to win on that one. And Bayleef actually showing off another, in this case, Toad hint at Timpani, also cleaning up that jump very nice. But yeah, 200 coins for literally free. We don't lose any time. We need to sit here anyways.
And just like I said before with the Brutals, and they're dropping the coin rings, and you can kind of collect them when you have some free time. This obviously is an auto-scroller portion of the run, so just ground pounding whenever you have a chance. Does not lose any time. Very free, 200 coins.
And yeah, in the grand scale, 200 coins are worth quite a lot, especially if we... Like, 200 coins is all we need for any %, and in this case, it literally doesn't lose any time for us to get that many coins. But looking at the coin counts right now, they won't have any issues. This run is still very long. There's still a lot of coin scraps right now, and since they already bought shop moons, in this case, actually only one, as far as... Wait, am I actually correct?
Just lost, I believe.
Just lost, yeah. Right? Yeah, at this point. So I guess you could say Bayleef has around 800 coins collected, which is actually not true, because they already played GSA, they played slots, and they did some death warps. So he's definitely looking at this right now. Both of them will not have any problems with coins.
That's right. There's definitely about 200 coins worth in the post-game that they will be able to find and collect to make up for their Toadette Moon that they'll be collecting later.
And yeah, the auto-scroller police is coming in right here. They want us to get out of Ruined, and Bayleef helping us out, not being stuck here. Auto-scroller done for him. Timpani only at 1 health. Let's not repeat the eternal meme. He does take out the dragon, though.
Yeah, we're safe this time.
We are safe this time. And yeah, I'm always pretty glad when this is done, because we do not revisit this place. This is not all unique moons. This is Darker Side. And we are done with this. Yes. We won't see this kingdom again in this run.
There is one particular sub-area in this kingdom that I actually do rather enjoy, but it is very slow. So, and much like the Cloud Kingdom, there is only a handful of moons here available, so it's not worth coming here. Considering there is no painting to warp us here, we have to take the Odyssey. It's a very slow place to go to.
So you know what the big difference between the sub... I mean, are you talking about the 2D one, or...?
I am talking about the 2D one. I actually do rather enjoy that.
The big difference between this and Ruined in general is the 2D one actually has quite a big skip you can do to get like
I do love that skip.
But
probably
Ruined
my favorite part.
It's literally the opposite. It literally doesn't allow for any skips. It just has you sit there in the auto-scroller. So I can respect that. I can respect that you like that section, but Ruined in general...
Yeah. I can't blame you. I can't blame you for that.
But yeah, Bayleef rolling through these Goombas used to be in a route at some point, because you can just pretty quickly stack them up. Gotta be passing on that one. So the entire first visit of Bowser is gonna be quite different comparing it to any other Bowser's visit. Getting that moon, getting the box's moon too, and Bayleef actually missing the capture warp. That's actually super interesting. That looked like it would have worked for me.
Must have just been slightly off with Cappy on that throw there. Not entirely slow, just have to grab the Pokio that's just behind the wall along with side
So
there.
Timpani might actually miss it too. He didn't miss it, but I think just
He did
looking
take damage.
just looking at Timpani's screen, I think I might have seen what happened. When the Spiny is actually close to the Pokio, it's quite easy for Cappy to home at the Spiny and just knock back the Spiny instead of capturing. I'm pretty sure that might have happened to Bayleef there. But Timpani definitely saving a big amount of time there over Bayleef.
Yeah, if only a little bit. Timpani's also going to have to heal. Another reason we don't like taking damage in any situation most of the time, unless you're going to be grabbing a checkpoint or something, or it's a boss fight, is because after you collect a moon, you do sit through a very painful 2 seconds of healing animation, and every single time they can add up if you take a lot of damage in a run.
So shards coming up. Once again, a required story moon to progress the story in this very lenient kingdom, in this very linear kingdom too. You pretty much walk a straight path through it. We do collect 2 additional moons though as we pass here. One of them being the notorious Glory Hole. Obviously just a... Okay, let's not get too much into it. But a moon that actually used to be an any percent 2 at some point. It seems fast, it does have these cutscenes going, but we can easily collect that one in. And wow, actually Timpani getting his Pokio killed by another Pokio.
I think he may have slipped up on his routing there for just a second. Picking up the other one though, not too much of a time loss there.
And yeah, Bayleef getting that hidden moon behind that tower section. And once again, Timpani actually taking the damage there, as you mentioned, and even in this case, it wasn't a story moon, but that still does lose some time.
And it might look like we're going out of our way. You might be thinking, oh, well, we only need 8 moons to progress past Bowser's, but this comes back to the routing in the post-game. When we revisit Bowser's and open up the moon rock, there are a lot of moons clustered around the particular checkpoints that we're collecting along the way, and it doesn't make sense for us to go out of our way to grab the ones that we're getting on this first visit, so we get them now.
Dude, shoutouts to Bayleef there for opting for some movement that even some top any percent runners would be scared of doing. That spin pound right there, which skips the long jump that Timpani just did, is super scary but super fast. So shoutouts for him. And yeah, Timpani, by the way, missed that one, getting another very essential checkpoint. Or later, we do need a lot of these checkpoints. Another one coming up here on Timpani's screen. We do need them for some convenient warps.
A little bit of a difference in strategy here. Obviously, you have to defeat both bosses, and the platforms are the equal distance apart, so it doesn't really matter what order you do them. But from what I've heard, topper first is the ultimate strat, and if you do it, you save 20 minutes. So Timpani opting for that route.
Wouldn't agree, in my opinion. I mean, once again, this is an instance of purely personal preference as far as this goes. Timpani notoriously being a topper first fighter, but Bayleef being a real a real Super Mario Odyssey player. And fighting Harry first, which it literally doesn't matter, especially in this case because we grabbed that checkpoint on the way first anyways. I guess you could pick it up in between, but yeah. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah, just finishing him up right quick here. Bayleef has still got, it looks like, about 20 seconds of lead. And I think they both have to go for one backup moon, if I remember correctly. So this is still a very close race.
I think you're right. The speed of this backup moon can vary in this instance, but yeah, Bayleef still coming up with a lead right now. Definitely losing some time in this Bowser's when it comes to that missed capture warp. Wouldn't be the biggest of deals though, because Timpani did take damage twice, and that adds up quite heavily. And yeah, we also get this Box's moon. Just the best point for us to pick it up. And wow, once again. Bayleef just cleaning up that very scary section. But once again, I do want to shout out Rex for the double support right here, gifting 2 subs to the community. Greatly appreciate your support for GSA. And thank you so much.
Many kudos.
And Bayleef is talking to Captain Toad right here. Once again, I'm pretty sure Captain Toad is an achievement. Is he actually an achievement?
I'm actually not sure about that.
Me neither. One good thing about Captain Toad that is quite unknown is actually once you talk to him once, his dialogue speeds up quite drastically. That's something that actually has been considered in any percent 2 even. His first talk is a bit long. I think it has like 5 text boxes or 4, but if you talk to him once, the upcoming text boxes, and I hope I'm not lying, but once again, yeah, I was about to say are 2 text boxes long, the Seaside one having the similar... actually, Seaside in this case is the first time we talk to him, but we will be talking to him in Metro later, and yeah, gonna be talking to him.
Quite a few times. And it does open up some interesting routing possibilities. If he were in convenient locations, which he's Captain Toad, he's an adventurer, he usually isn't, so...
So before we come into the still very scary mech fight, Bayleef is actually going to be ground pounding on top of this giant Bowser statue right here and get to this convenient placed electric wire, heading up to the mech fight. Who's actually going to be doing that now. Timpani still needs to get that Pokemon and that ground pound moon. But Bayleef, let's see what mech strats he opts for. This one looked pretty standard, pretty good climb.
Yeah, very clean second hit too.
The notorious small and just a classic ground pound to snipe the bubble as it turns. Timpani might show off a different strat, which is called Digo Yuya instead, both named after runners that actually made them basically popular. Not sure, we'll see. Bayleef has to go for this very scary third though. It actually lands quite a bit on the right of him. Not sure if he can make it back up. He's, I think, high enough though.
Timpani's taking a bonk on the climb, but he's able to back it up rather smoothly, get the spin pound on the first hit. And he is going to go for Goryu Mech here.
Good fight from Bayleef here. Timpani destroying Topper. He's quite a bit low, and it's that phase isn't that much of a problem. He makes it up back in time. But yeah, Bayleef starting here with a pretty clean mech fight. Timpani still has to make this pretty scary hit. It's pure.
Always the hardest hit, this third one.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, and he's
showing off wire. So,
and no. He takes a fall on the mech.
So basically showing off why this hit can be very scary. And he was trying to go for the, I guess, quickest backup for it, which is just ground pounding immediately as the mech comes to a hold again. Let's see how fast he can back it, but let's see if he can make it back up top. Would be pretty essential. Gets the poke in.
There we go.
Last hit coming up. Boom.
Playing it nice and safe. That's good.
Just what we want to see. Bayleef obviously taking a pretty confident lead here, but once again, this category is not close to be done. It's not even, like, that's not even where it starts, in my opinion. It literally starts once we shoot out of the wire, in my opinion. At least the very fun part and the interesting part. But Bayleef getting that moon on the fence there. Also, throwback used to be a any percent moon, actually. Actually, it's actually so funny because I guess people just didn't know about these faster moons at the time, or just didn't consider them at all, or just said, okay, let's get that moon, it's safe and fast, instead of let's get this moon, it's faster. Interesting history though, looking back. And once again, quick shout out to Rex here, gifting another subscription. Endless support tonight. Thank you so much.
To our runner Bayleef.
Bayleef gonna be enjoying that hot clock. If you are in possession of these clocks, you can obviously show them off at any times. But Timpani also grabbing that caught in the iron fence moon. Nice, I did my homework. And Bayleef starting up moon.
Yes, and of course this is going to be a lot different from any percent and world peace, because we do want to get some fast moons along the way. The end of the game is not shooting out of the wire, so we're going to pick up some moons on our way over to the final escape sequence here.
And yeah, let's see. Bayleef is about to approach a pretty interesting moon. There's a very cool strat you can do for it, which basically uses the vectoring mechanic. You can do like a pretty cool triple jump right here. Bayleef looks like he's going to be opting to go for it, and gets it.
Very tricky. Kind of have to zigzag your way through those little platforms. He's also going to pull off this quick rocket flower strat. He's going to try and grab both with Cappy. He missed that one that time, but it kind of does the same thing that it does in any percent, where you grab 2 rocket flowers in order to just shoot yourself to the end of this particular section to grab to start doing your moon cave skip, I guess.
So the best thing about grabbing that additional rocket flower close to the chest is you don't have to go out of the way, I guess, for the additional flower.
That's right.
But that's not a big deal in the grand scale of things. And Bayleef getting that moon cave skip just fine. Wait, I think the bunny did the bunny literally just kick the rock? What happened there on Timpani?
I think that might have happened actually. Yeah. The bunny jumping the wrong way that Timpani did not want, and perhaps kicked the rock along the way.
And we can't really come to a rest right here. Rex just showing endless support to the community, gifting subs all around the place. And he's going to be getting these shoutouts from us, obviously, for now, since we are not focusing too much on gameplay right now, as Bayleef is just preparing for his last section.
Yes,
of
the infamous
Moon.
escape. Rex is popping off.
It's popping off. And yeah, Timpani also making the triple jump over. Let's see if Cappy decides to actually cooperate with Mario and home in. Nah, the classic just doesn't want to home in.
Yep.
Not a big time loss here, though.
Cappy's not always your best friend.
And I hope Timpani actually makes this.
That was very risky, but oh, he's good. He's good.
He is good. That was quite the interesting jump. I think he gained more height from that than he wanted to. But definitely making it over, which is what really matters now.
And pulling off the moon cave skip on the first try.
Oh, that was
and
actually
just-
super close.
Just on the edge.
But yeah, Bayleef refighting Bowser in the Moon Kingdom. Once again, we know that from any percent, it's pretty much a Cloud refight. The good thing for us in Darker Side, though, is once we did that, we are over with him. I guess it's not really a spoiler, but the way we play the actual Darker Side dungeon is going to be quite interesting once we get there. That's still a long way to go, though. And yeah, Bayleef having a pretty clean Bowser fight.
Yes, I suppose they do include a Bowser fight. Sometimes I forget that. Sometimes I forget that there is actually a Bowser fight within the Darker Side dungeon.
I guess, and it's not a fight. I guess it's like an escape.
It's just
section.
the escape sequence. Yeah, that's
But
true.
yeah, I guess it is a fight for Bowser. But yeah, Timpani's starting up his actual Bowser fight as Bayleef is doing the normal escape from the collapsing moon cave, cathedral cave thingy. I guess because the moon actually isn't collapsing. This looks like apocalyptic. It looks like everything is collapsing, but once we are done with this, they just land on the moon again and they like hang out.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just imploding on the inside and they got stuck here somehow, but you know, Mario games don't always have to make sense, I suppose.
I do agree. That's not what we are aiming for, but Bayleef probably going for to de-skip. Even still, these 2 seconds used to be unthinkable of. Like, why would you save those 2 seconds for such a risky jump? How can you in any percent? But yeah, even in Darker Side, we do that jump now. It is pretty easy once you get the hang of it, and 2 seconds is quite a nice time to save.
That's right. And of course, you get the style points as well.
For sure. Timpani, third phase Bowser, trying to get that fast head grab as Bayleef
And
is
he's
heading
got it.
into the final room. Sour please, enemy music playing, and only pillars to go until we actually reach the start of the run. Sounds a bit ridiculous, but I mean, it's not the start of the run, it's the high part of the run though, for sure.
Indeed. Pace is going to definitely pick up as we approach the post game. There's not going to be much of a break. We're going to go through a little bit of like a warp painting crash course, basically going through all of the kingdoms in a revisit with a final moon dump at the end. No real breaks in between. It's going to be probably a solid hour and a half of constant go.
Yeah, for sure. And both of them actually destroying one of the blocks right here. For Bayleef, it's the final one until he unlocks that final pylon. It's not the final pylon, but it's the final pylon of the escape. Any percent would be done right now. Bayleef basically finishing this with a 1:27.38, which is still pretty good. Looking back at this run, he did have a very big time loss in snow, trying to clip at a death in sand, but that's still a very solid time for the any percent split.
Yes, indeed, 127. Very, very solid. I consider 130 to be a really good time. That's when you're kind of playing in the big leagues, so seeing that we can get sub 3 minutes on that time is very, very impressive. Goes to show the consistency, again, of these runners.
We do have the top runners pretty much in as far as this category goes right now with us, at least at this current day. They are used and known to be, I guess, the best when it comes to this category. And even though like this is a lead, and obviously that would look quite scary in 80%, once again, and you will be seeing why we said all the time we did like crazy setups to basically start the run off. You will be seeing all of that work paying off, and also why it is long. It is definitely not over at all here for Timpani. There's so much happening right now where he can catch up with on. So just getting the final block right here, trying to go and get his any percent split done. As Bayleef is preparing and once again setting up some stuff in Mushroom 1. We do revisit this place, and the way they are going to be playing this route is that Bayleef is going to be getting pretty much all of these moons outside here. This proposed Luncheon 3 route we talked about earlier does not do that anymore. But Bayleef is going to be doing a pretty tricky and pretty potentially costly jump very soon here. So that's something to very definitely keep your eyes.
Yes, incredibly notorious within the speedrunning Super Mario Odyssey community. It's just very, very frustrating, especially if you miss it more than once.
Yeah, the entire purpose of this jump is to obtain one of the Goom Bat Moons, which is the female version of these Goombas, sitting over there at the other side of the moat. The first thing that Bayleef is going to be doing here is Timp, by the way, obviously finished that any percent split up just cleanly with like a very low 129, I think.
Yes.
And yeah, Bayleef trying to do this jump here. First try. Makes it look easy, but that's actually quite tricky sometimes.
Yeah, and I've had it where he doesn't jump far enough, which of course is the most common. I've had it where he kind of launches off in the wrong direction. There's just a bunch of things that can go wrong with that particular jump.
Yeah, because even though it kind of looked like it, but what Bayleef did there is not the intended way to go over. Like, usually you are supposed to like clean out the moat and then basically stack up these Goombas to reach Goombet. But yeah, that's basically a mini sequence break. And that, even though that's just this one tiny jump, comparing that to the game intended strat, that's like a huge time save.
That's right.
And also planting his seed there. Once again, seeds that we will be basically getting full moons out of later on. And once again, 2 subs from Rex here. Huge shoutouts to Rex 2432 for supporting Global Speedrun Association with some gifted subs. Show off your clocks. And Timpani heading up towards the Goomba jump.
Yes. Very tricky one. And also, it's almost necessary. I think it is kind of a necessary jump because, as you said, the regular sequence would be to ground pound all of these little posts inside the moat to drain it, then go and stack all of the Goombas up and bring them over to this moat, which of course is absolutely way too long. And
So
Timpani
Timpani
nailing it on the first try.
getting that jump, and oh my goodness, Rex with 10 gift subs across the channel, 20 gift subs today. Definitely huge shout
Oh
outs.
my goodness.
That support is definitely hugely appreciated. And I'm super excited for this race right now, because I know that Timpani usually isn't super confident every time with the Goomba jump. There's days where he just destroys it, but there's days where he has issues with it. And that's definitely some momentum he can gain from just cleaning that up like it's nothing.
That's right.
So, and Bayleef is starting his revisits section right now. That's actually a pretty cool strat that he did there. He started collecting all of these notes, and while he's getting these notes, he's just talking to Captain Toad in between. The note timer basically isn't affected, so you can just jump up and get these notes on the way.
And it's very interesting that the game lets you do that. I don't think that they intended for that at all, but definitely a nice way to sneak Captain Toad in there.
And another pretty interesting fact that we haven't gotten to touch on right now as Timpani just gets there is these little jamming toads. They want you to play a music track, and the way these work out is you only really get the access to the moons if we heard the track already. So some of them might seem fast, like notoriously the one in Metro that just stands there. We cannot make use of him though, because we don't have the track he wants us to play, which is in that case like the RC car track. And we do not go in that section at all, so we can't actually help him with that. But Timpani also revisiting, so there's a lot of things happening. It's actually quite intense right now as Bayleef heads towards fishing. Talk to me about fishing.
Oh, fishing. Bayleef makes that look incredibly simple and without hassle. But the thing is that every nibble that the fish gives you has the potential of being either the bite, the one, or just being like a kind of a measly nibble. And if you get the measly nibble, you have to wait for the next bite. And sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes it's the very first one. Sometimes you get unlucky, and you have to wait 8 nibbles. It's one of the very small elements of RNG in this game, but it can definitely waste you a lot of time.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And Bayleef getting, and right now you just see how this entire section plays out. So Bayleef just hit the moon rock. Timpani is about to do that right now and unlocked all of these moons around the kingdom right now. So these moons in the water and the ones sitting above the fishing pond, they wouldn't have been available before. They wouldn't have just been there. But now they are, and they are pretty fast, and Bayleef is going to be probably getting around like 3 or like 4 to 5 moons a minute or something like crazy as he heads back into Chavaria. And as we see, Bayleef is not going to be opting for the fastest route here in snow, which once again contains a pretty tricky painting jump. Pretty sure Tim is not going to be opting for it, as it really only saves time if you get it first try.
That's right. And I think that nobody has really implemented it into the darker side routes quite yet. Maybe Cops has, but it is a little bit of a risky thing to do if you're not fully confident with it. And yes, it has to be first try.
So yeah, I'm actually the kind of runner that does it. I just do it because I think it's fun. But right now, since I just get into this category, I have this time loss to play with. Like I can do some stuff like that without being worried about losing a bunch of time to it. It's just the way I like to play, doing some fancy stuff. But yeah, pretty sure Timpani is also not going to be opting for it. It is quite risky. And Bayleef is going to be going into these sub-rooms. We know them from any percent. But since we hit this moon rock in snow, and we are going to be hitting more of them later, this moon sitting right there, you guys know it wouldn't have been there. So we just basically spawned it in using that moon rock, which makes that room have 3 moons in it. Super, super helpful for super fast moons in that case.
And part of the reason why we left them for the end as well, so that we don't have to revisit the rooms in the second visit. We can just go through and kind of clean sweep the rooms all in one go.
And yeah, Timpani also not opting for the painting jump route. We can actually tell, because if you do that route, you get a moon close to the Odyssey before you head to the section. It just makes it so that the no painting jump route just gets that moon with the Taifu/Blowy Joey later on. So we do know right now that they won't be doing it. But yeah, Timpani going back to Chavaria, Bayleef heading into the second subroom, which is the Rango room. And one big thing to note about these these sub-rooms, which makes them so much better now, is if you visit them before Bound Ball, especially in this particular case, this room would have had a Rango refight, the boss we fight in Lake. We would have encountered him again. But since we already broke like the sequence there and already are done with restoring peace back to the kingdom, Rango's just gone, and the moon is literally just sitting there. And there's one of these weird little, I don't even know what they're called, Bayleef, I think slightly missing it, but getting it on a second attempt. I guess, like, do they have a name?
They're usually like lurkers or creepers or something along those lines, like kind of like a guy that kind of crawls under the ground.
And it does make sense, and they are quite awkward to collect, but he's just sitting there. The Rango moon is just sitting there. We have only the little cutscene right there. No barrier cutscene that also would have played if we would have gotten that moon earlier. So just way more comfortable for us to get that now.
Yeah. Oh, and Timpani taking a death in the poison room there. Just missing a jump from one of the blowy joeys. Perhaps got blown off the edge. So I have to redo that one.
There's actually one additional like Taifu / blowy joey at the very start of this room, which makes this room way more awkward. I guess being fast in this one can be a science for itself, but that additional one makes it so much harder. But Timpani making it work here on the second try.
Yeah, I've seen a couple different strats to deal with that particular guy. Either you jump over, or you can actually just throw your cap at him to make him kind of interrupt his blowing animation.
And yeah, Timpani actually going for the very, very fast option right there that actually you see people do that in any percent, where you leave one of these Spinies alive and kill him after you uncapture the Taifu to have a shorter camera pen. But Bayleef is done with the sub-rooms. He just picked up the one in the shards room, which he didn't even have to collect the shards. And he's going to be turning to one of these head and seek guys. There's these little head guys hidden on some NPCs. One of them being the Chevarian right there. Very quick moon, just a short dialogue. And the last one he's going to be collecting for now inside here is this crate moon.
Yes, again, all of this stuff, of course, only existing in the post-game. Because the first time you go through is the Bound Bowl sequence.
So Timpani's showing why these lurkers can be quite a pain. You want to basically stun them with a cap throw, but he just barely missed the fast enough ground pound to hit him. So the lurker basically like teleported through this platform. So he needed to go basically across that entire section. But he's done with that sub-room, heading into the shards sub-room. And as we see right there, Bayleef is very, very slowly but surely heading over to that war painting, heading towards Cascade. But there's that little jump you can do to skip that, basically.
Yeah, and the game intends for you to use the Taifu to blow a staircase over there so that you can make regular jumps with Mario. But obviously, speedrunners are going for the faster strats there.
So Cascade 2, and I'm pretty sure people have different opinions there. Timpani, unfortunate bog there falling down. He is not going to be dying there. There's no death zone. It's going to be fine getting back up. But yeah, Cascade 2, in my opinion, one of the most fun revisits.
I would have to agree. Yeah,
it's super fast-paced. Once again, there's some very cool moons you get. There's a pretty cool sub-room that, if you have clean movement for, can be quite fun.
There are some notoriously frustrating moments. A lot of areas where a wrong jump can lead to your death. You're kind of hanging over a cliff for a lot of this particular stage, and you either have to warp back or do a death warp to get back to where you were going. But that kind of adds to the excitement of it.
But yeah, Bayleef, what he did right there was actually quite interesting. He used the T-Rex to basically unlock a moon he's going to be collecting later. And also, one thing right there, which goes to show me that he's probably going to be doing the scooter clip later.
That's right.
He just captured that change jump for seemingly no reason, but capturing a certain amount of enemies is a Toadette achievement. Pretty cool move here. Let's see if he makes that work. Nice. Very fast. But yeah, you want to be capturing a certain amount of enemies, and that bigger change jump is a separate capture, so he gets that and is fine to just do scoot clip later.
This particular sub-area is notoriously tricky. I find that it tends to eat my cap throws in very, very many places, and you can fall to your death and have to redo the whole thing. It's not very fun.
So Bayleef pretty much cleaning that sub area up quite nicely, but especially these little fuzzy enemies that spawn in Cascade tend to, I think, give the game quite a bit of trouble when it comes to like lagging. So yeah, it can be quite annoying for you to deal with, but Bayleef passing that sub room without any issues.
Yeah, and here's another one that gives a lot of people trouble. Hanging right over the cliff, you have to kind of time your jumps and land on all these clouds. Bayleef making it look easy, of course.
And yeah, Timpani starting up his Cascade 2 visit. Bayleef getting one of the 2D moons. That one, I don't actually know if that Node moon is considered a 2D and Nodes moon. It's definitely considered a Nodes moon. But the one that he's going to be getting after that, hidden behind the waterfall, is going to be considered a 2D moon. And once again, these 2D moons also count towards achievements later on. And actually, interesting, Timpani, I think, almost having some muscle memory kicking on right there. He paused as he did that T-Rex jump, but Madame Brutal obviously wasn't there anymore. Some interesting muscle memory.
And Bayleef here, he's approaching what doesn't look like a very difficult moon to get at all. But in my experience, is probably one of the most frustrating in this entire kingdom. You have to use this chain chomp to break this rock. But it appears that the particular positioning, he got it on the first try. Kudos. The particular positioning of it seems to be very random, and you can spend maybe even a minute sometimes just trying to throw the chain chomp at that rock and it not breaking, no matter how hard you try.
Super weird moon. Timpani is making his way through this very scary sub room, but I do want to shout out Schulzor, who has actually just donated 10,000 bits for GSA. Once again, huge support, helps us a lot to keep this going, to offer some big prize money and just to keep events going in the future. Also subscribing, big shoutouts, hugely appreciated support. As Bayleef gets one of these timer challenges right there.
Yeah, and this one, good old timer challenges, and again, all contributing to the Toadette moons. Most of them are rather fast, but it's always good to kind of keep those in the back of your mind. If you ever need to back up something in this run, you always kind of have to be thinking, does this contribute to a Toadette moon? Because that means I have to not just back up one moon, I have to back up two as a result. Some of these Toadette moons, they are very, very tight. I can tell you the timer challenge one is perfect. If you miss one timer challenge, then you have to back up another moon as well. Some of them are a little bit more lenient than others. For example, capturing birds. We capture way more birds than Toadette requires us to, and it's okay if you miss one.
Yeah, they are conveniently fast anyways, because usually they just pass us at some section of the kingdom.
That's right.
And Bayleef, actually, that's quite brutal there, just killing off that T-Rex. You can obviously just leave it alive, but I guess Bayleef was feeling angry and dropped him right there down to the waterfall area. But really pretty cool strat right there that I wanna shout out there for Bayleef. He just captured that wire for literally only half a second to make it over to that hint art mode. It is actually faster to do it that way. And we also have a welcome back to our tourist guy who's chilling in Cascade right now and is giving us a very fast moon again. As Timpani gets the busted fossil moon very quickly, first try. That's what you want to see. And Bayleef is going to be buying another shop moon. This shop is just in our way, basically. It's just in our route, just fits in here. So we buy that one. It's just fast enough. And that's another instance of a shop being in the outside area. So there's no loading zones that go with that shop. And Bayleef is going to be getting one more timer challenge. He's going to be also getting the chest moon, another ground moon, and then it's actually off to Bowser's Kingdom. Timpani gets the timer challenge on his own.
Now, Bowser's Kingdom is actually one of my favorite revisits as well. A lot of like really kind of quick moons, fast moons. I feel like it's one of those kingdoms that kind of makes you feel like you're good at the game, you know? It's not incredibly difficult, but very fast.
I do agree, and I think a lot of it is about the, like, if you have fast movement for the GSA sub area, that's a big one. And also, by the way, in my opinion, the invader fight, it's pretty easy to perform, but it looks like stylish because the invader knocks you off. There's a lot of things happening in Bowser that look quite stylish. This Timpani also is basically off to the last section here of Cascade.
Yeah, just taking the dino on a little journey. Sweeping around, picking up the last couple.
And one huge thing that I want you guys to keep in mind is not only is the late game the hardest part of the run, looking at Cap 2, looking at Lost 2, looking at all of these incredibly hard kingdoms, but also Darker Side itself is even more punishing than Ruined or anything. It's so punishing to actually take a death in Darker Side. You can literally lose up to like 3 minutes or something, or 2 minutes. So races will not be over until the very end, even though Bayleef has a quite nice lead for him right now, as he gets that Great Moon and starts his Revisit Bowser quest as he just hit the Moonwalk and got the hint out.
That's right. Mario games of probably the last 10 years have all included some sort of like be-all, end-all type of like level, you know? It's just like this is the hardest level in the game. Test your skills, and Darker Side is definitely that. And it's always the condition has always been, if you die anywhere in the level, you go back to the beginning. You have to do the whole thing deathless, and that's no exception here.
So Bayleef is going to be going for the triple jump over, save a little bit of time over just long jumping over, using the wire like the intended way, obviously. Timpani done with the rabbit, only timer challenge, chest, ground pound to go, and then he's going to be off to Bowser's 2. And Bayleef is knocking down the nice frame, and that's actually a pretty interesting strat. That might actually be faster if he gets that to work. I haven't seen that work out yet, but if he gets that timer challenge moon and is able to chest clip now towards the painting,
yeah, he's going to go for it. Kitten hype
that looks
as well.
good. Kitten is hyped for the chest loop. That looked like it worked, and he gets it. He's gonna be making it over. Unfortunate bonk. It doesn't matter. He did it for the style points, and that's right. Surely faster. Yeah, that's surely faster.
Yeah, because swimming through the water there, it pushes you back because of the water. So definitely a faster strat there.
Bayleef heading over with that slingshot right there. Pretty cool looking movement. And this section, especially in Bowser's 2, is my favorite. You get this very fast ground pound moon, and then you make it over to that timer challenge. Not sure what strat Bayleef has prepared. Looks like a pretty standard one. You can get quite creative there. Can't blame him. He's obviously playing very good so far, showing his consistency. So he's just basically showing me why it's not always the best to go for cool looking strats, but I guess it's like a playstyle thing. And Bayleef obviously being the very best at this category at the moment. But yeah, GSA sub area, pretty cool one.
Yes, we definitely break this one. We certainly do not do this in the intended way at all. You're supposed to take this, they're called GSA. You're supposed to take this guy on a little adventure, press a bunch of P-switches, use a couple of different GSA to, do a puzzle. But if you know how to manipulate Cappy and Mario well enough, you just kind of do this instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely agree that someone is probably one of the very slowest, literally in the entire game, in the intended way. But the way we just played it so fast, you get these 2 moons and you just warp out. But usually you are supposed to take those GSOs, I guess, on like a quest.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the finishing moon in that particular sub-area is called like GSO's Ultimate Quest or something like that.
Yeah, I agree.
It's definitely not quite the quest.
Not for us, at least. No. But yeah, I like that strat from Timpani right there, throwing the cap towards the slingshot as he grabs that moon. That's like these small things that you might not always think about. But that worked out quite nice. And actually, the long jump that Bayleef did right there can be quite scary.
Indeed.
He gets it fine, though.
You also did it from a camera angle that I am kind of scared of trying myself, but because he did choose that camera angle kind of facing back towards that way, he was able to manipulate this bird spawning faster, which, because the game registers you as being on that other side of the wall, has not spawned the bird in yet.
Bayleef showing a pretty cool and fast node strat, using that poke right there with some precise flings and some poke movement to get these nodes quick. And Timpani is, yeah, once again, in one of my favorite parts of Bowser's. Bayleef still has to go through the shop section. He's done with the scarier part of Bowser's. There's only some talking to do and some GSA capturing and placing them correctly. But he's done with the main part of Bowser's too, I'd say.
That's right, yeah. The rest is kind of smooth sailing.
And yeah, he's gonna be heading into Seaside 2 next, which is also, I actually enjoy Seaside 2 obviously way more than Seaside 1.
Yes.
It's also it's a bit tedious. It's quite a bit of like fish movement and quite a bit of there's a bird cycle you need to make. That bird cycle is probably the easiest one out of every bird cycle we do though. Like it's the easiest one to get. Simply not making that jump up. He's avoiding the damage though, so you can still grab that moon.
Yes, and he'll save the damage time. I find that Seaside 2 is another one of those kingdoms that make me feel really fast at the game. Like there's a couple of different combinations of moons and the orders that we get them in, and if you pull it off, it looks really good.
Yeah,
a very fun kingdom to run.
Yeah, I can see that. There's just a lot to do as far as like moving goes.
Correct. Yeah.
You need to basically swim around the entire place with like the fish. But I agree. It's I guess that's with every revisit though, because there's so many moons like scattered around that once you know the route, you can just go from moon to moon to moon.
That's right. Yep. A little bit intimidating if you haven't memorized it, but definitely a lot of fun once you have.
So Timpani also getting that long jump, no big deal. Needs to wait for the Poke to spawn. That's not avoidable though, as far as I know. And Bayleef is going into Seaside 2, and he's not going to be on the bird cycle quite yet, but I think as the first warp happens, he's going to be on one of these bird cycles. Probably the easiest one to catch though.
That's right. And this is the first time we're going to see those seeds come into play.
True.
All the seeds that we planted earlier in the game, 20 minutes has elapsed, so they are all just kind of waiting there for us.
Definitely true, and that's actually an order I don't know these moons in. Usually I've seen people to grab the seed first and then jump over to that moon and then over to the hint art.
Yeah.
But I guess, once again, personal preference. Not sure about the timing, but here's another hint art sitting, and then next moon coming up after this hint art is actually pretty big throwback to all the SM64 people, because these chests just happen to be in the exact same order as the JRB chests.
That's true. The one in the treasure alcove of the that's Jolly Roger Bay, I believe. Yeah,
exactly. The one with like the falling pillars. These chests. Right. I think we can throw back to them.
Yeah, this particular section that Bayleef is approaching is probably my favorite part of Seaside. This combination of moons, just again, once you pull it off, it just feels really fast. They all just kind of like it almost feels like the game put these moons together because they fit so seamlessly well together.
Yeah, it does make sense. I've been talking about that bird cycle that Bayleef is on right now, because all he needs to do right now is swim up, and then he's going to be getting that bird immediately. It's literally on his way. Had some issues actually there grabbing that moon. Gushen being weird as always. But yeah, next moon, Dory's just also swimming. But as it just all aligns. Like all the moving objects are there for you to grab them. And then we can also buy that shop moon. It just works out.
Yep. And then even afterwards, the shop always spawns in the same place after you bought something, so you can just ground pound down into the water here and into another quick moon.
Yep. That shop is definitely basically teleporting as you buy that moon. And yeah, once one of the moons is hidden here between these bricks, and actually all these moons are so fast, the underwater moons, all of them are like very close to even be able to replace like an any % moon with the speed they have. Obviously that moon, mostly those moons just sitting around, they are moon rock moons, so they wouldn't be available in an earlier state of that kingdom. The next one that we get actually being a hint art moon. Once again, paying off, we did look at that luncheon hint art. So this moon is going to be blue. It's going to be counted towards our luncheon count. But it's also going to be a moon for us, working towards the 500.
That's right. And we have Timpani approaching the Seaside Kingdom now. He's just grabbing the flower moon. and he's opting for the other direction. He's going for the seed first, followed by the Parasol Moon afterwards. And again, that could just come down to personal preference. I'm not entirely sure of the timing on that one.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Timpani making quick work of these chests. He knows the combination, and he's going to be warping, and also going to be on the bird cycle going forward. And Bayleef just basically finishing up this underwater section. Once again, there's so many underwater moons we can get, and we are not even done yet with underwater moons. We are going to be getting the one we get in any percent, which is just a nice point for us to warp back to get some additional moons outside. But you're not done with underwater yet. Simply on this bird cycle, grabbing that first ground pound moon. And then he's also, since he didn't take damage, no major mistakes, he's just going to be able to grab that bird, which is fine. Boom, bird, it's the moon. And Bayleef getting Lighthouse Leaper, the glider moon. Where you just need to fly over the snail. Apparently, I don't even know what the story is. I guess the snail wants to see a Glidon or something.
Yeah, I don't like, maybe Glidon's a celebrity or something. And
I mean, Glidon is pretty cool.
You can't deny that. Here's the story. Kerbis Scree. That's all you need to know.
I can only agree. But yeah, as I said, not done with underwater yet. And actually, the kitten, I think, agreed as well.
I can hear it, yeah.
Getting confirmation. But Bayleef still has to go through an underwater section. And one of them, I'm actually quite interested in what he's going to do approaching that one. It's going to be a very scary one. And another JRB throwback. This is packed with JRB throwbacks. And if you guys watch SM64, you do know this guy that Bayleef tries to avoid with some camera manipulation and gets it. We will still be seeing it, but since he did that, he was able to skip. And he's actually still taking damage at the very end from the ear there.
Yeah, the camera manipulation is pretty precise there. Sometimes you can get out of there without taking any damage at all.
Getting confirmation one more time. And it is true. It is pretty awkward to get that camera manipulation. You need to swim out of the alcove pretty quickly. We'll see Timp attempt that very soon. As Bayleef is heading over towards the fancy goblet. There's a moon hiding the outside. And there's also a moon inside of that. And we are going to be needing to get into, like, on top of the goblet because Peach is actually waiting for us as Bayleef snipes that bunny.
Very nice. And I've never actually seen this strategy before. He's using the rocket flower to get up into there. Another option that you can choose, and maybe we'll see Timpani do it, is you can just keep your Gushin and drop your Gushin on top of the rabbit to catch the rabbit, and then boost on over with the Gushin's water into the into the jet streams.
And Timpani having some issues there with his underwater pathing, but not the biggest deal. He's going to be flying over with glider. And one thing that I do want you guys all to show some love for our runner, Timpani. He is a European runner. He's in the UK right now, so his time right now is 2 a.m. and he's still going strong. He's still like at least an hour to go and even more. So definitely, obviously appreciate it, and he's going to be showing. He's showing us this insanely fun to watch category right now. So definitely want to show him some love. Sure, as he's still going strong. And Bayleef heading into Wooded revisit. And as you guys know, we are not quite done here as far as world peace goes.
That's right. This was the only boss that we left behind when we came through the early game the first time. So we're going to have to just clean this guy up before we can break open our moon rock and unlock a bunch of fast moons.
Exactly. And so the way, and we've talked about this fast pace, it pretty much showed so far. Snow, Cascade, Bowser's, Seaside, very, very little downtime so far. The biggest downtime you could always say are these painting moons and like I guess the moon rocks. Let's see if Timpani actually gets that straight here for the eel. He's going to be trying to swim away, but the eel is just relentless.
Yep.
Also damaging him on his way out. But yeah, I think that boss fight here in Ruin is one of the very few instances where we have some downtime, because that boss is obviously a quote-unquote boss fight, but it is quite easy and not too much to do, so you can, I guess, kind of relax.
Yeah, that's right. There is only one particular strategy to kind of pay attention to in this fight, something we call the speedy nut boy. Sometimes if you manage to capture him at the right time, looks like Bayleef did here, he'll be running uninterrupted when he hits the ground. He doesn't, he's not like stuttering at all. Sometimes you have to activate that in the second phase of the fight, but quite a bit faster. You can save about 3 seconds by just having him run continuously.
Yeah, with that speed, there's a few ways to obtain the speed. You can like boost off of that little ledge that spawning platform offers.
That's right.
Which makes you like re-obtain the speed. But yeah, Timpani also using that rocket flow strat. I'm gonna be using that. I don't like keeping the Gushner lives. I'm gonna be using that for now. Seems more fun to me, as Bayleef is taking care of Torque Drift's first phase, and Timpani's gonna be heading towards Wooded right now. But yeah, Bayleef right now still with a pretty solid lead over Timpani. He's already fighting Torque Drift and also in an advanced phase. But once again, so right now the first Kingdom revisits are done. Seaside, Bowser's, Cascade, all of them being actually quite short, comparing them to the one coming up. Wooded and Sand especially being very long with a lot of things to do, and also some risky jumps and strats.
We have a handful of really fast kingdoms coming up, actually, or sorry, really slow kingdoms coming up.
Exactly. I guess long, because there's just a lot to do, and they're like huge. Wooded, Metro, Sand, of them being huge kingdoms.
And because their moon counts are so high to begin with, there's a lot of fast moons kind of scattered throughout them. So we do spend quite a bit of time in them.
But yeah, Bayleef done with Torque Drift. Timpani is going to be fighting him, so he has a short downtime window here, can relax quite a bit. And yeah, Bayleef got his world peace in Wooded. I actually like the aesthetic of this Wooded, obviously the most. It looks peaceful, it looks nice. And he's basically doing any percent right now. Literally starting, actually up until the shop moon, he's just doing the first 3 any percent moons.
That's right, and it just looks a little bit different because it's much, much brighter.
It is true.
It kind of threw me off the first time I ran this category, to be honest.
And I think it is because it's weird, because you don't start rolling like this at any percent. You start rolling off screen when you do any percent, and the rolls start super different.
Of course, diverting away from that path now to find the moon rock here. He's going to bust that open, and then he's going to go take a peek at a hint art. A previous route, probably a route that existed maybe 4 weeks ago, would have had us go to Wooded second instead of first. And this kind of plays into how the routing has changed quite a bit, and how going to one kingdom first changes the route quite a bit as well. But by choosing to go to Wooded first, we approach Wooded earlier in the post game as well, which means that looking at that hint art now is a viable option, whereas before we had to look at it in the first visit.
And it's actually the Sand one. I think I said Snow earlier just because it's so white aesthetically, a lot of white going on. But it's actually the Sand hint art, so we
That's
have
correct,
a fast moon. In Sand later, and Bayleef just did that jump, and that jump for the longest time used to be considered like super hard. Like people did like a wall there to make it over, quite tight. But during the task competition the community had going, we just found out that it's just so much easier to just do a long jump there, and it's just as fast. So one of the very weird occurrences of a very easy strat being around for so long
that we just didn't even like consider.
Yeah,
it was super weird. And Wooded is notoriously full of all sorts of scary stuff. Bayleef approaching this particular jump here. Definitely a run killer for me in the past. Definitely not the way you're supposed to get over here.
Cool looking though, gotta say.
Absolutely, very, very swaggy.
And yeah, I was surprised the way he approached that jump. I usually see people like jump in that little like lead way, the ramp has.
That's right.
We might see Tim go that way. But yeah, so Wooded right now actually gets super interesting and super creative. That's just the way this kingdom is built. So we make it back up top just to jump back down to visit this place here where there's a nut that we can easily break.
And this moon was not supposed to be gotten this way either. You're supposed to go kind of around the stage and through this big spinning platform. But of course, we've been able to manipulate the stage in a way that we just kind of jump over the edge and make it easy for ourselves.
And yeah, Bayleef showing a pretty fancy strat away, just ground pounds down all the way and then just instantly rolls into the nut. Getting that without any problem. And that just shows how nice this route works out. We've been to this place before, but this time the pipe just leads us perfectly to these Goombas because we are going to be getting another Goombat achievement. I get another Goombat moon here.
And I'm not entirely sure, but I believe that also is a Toadette achievement as well.
Yeah, I can see that. We do get some of these, so I definitely can see that. It's quite hard to tell because obviously learning this category, a lot of runners just follow the route that is around, and we do run the game in Japanese, so sometimes we just do things and they work out. But yeah, Goombat probably definitely being an achievement that Toadette gives us. As Bayleef gets 2 nuts in a row, one around the corner and one inside that place. Actually, one thing that is known that we probably won't see in RTA, but there's a potential moon clip you can do with that nut around the corner and through the wall to get to this section, which would save quite a bit actually, but it's like really hard to replicate because you can't really like backflip into that moon.
The particular height of that moon makes that a little bit tricky.
Yeah, exactly.
And then this is a little bit of a any percent throwback for you guys. Got taken out of the route, now it's back in the route. It's always really fun to watch runners do this particular route.
Yep. Exactly. Getting also confirmation that Goombat is an achievement and Timpani actually bonking there, but that's the way I used to see people go to the Toad.
That's right, taking advantage of the vector there.
Yeah, you get like a vector and you can basically have like a visual cue on when you actually want to jump. But Timpani, yeah, this time making it over just clean. And also avoiding the death, which is more important actually. So the bonk wasn't as bad as dying.
All right, and Bayleef is approaching a part here
oh god,
that is very notorious. It's activates a bird cycle after that warp. So there's a bird flying around this kingdom, and he has to collect this next series of moons as quickly as possible because if he wastes any time, he's going to miss the opportunity to grab this bird and therefore miss a moon and have to back it up somewhere. So if he's not as fast as he possibly can be, he's going to be down a moon and have to back it up later on.
Yeah, he's on that bird cycle right now. And by the way, just randomly saying, one thing that we haven't actually been getting the chance to talk about too much, but Bayleef is actually playing super consistent. Like, the entire post-game right now has been going so well.
Yes. This is true. Very, very minimal mistakes. And that, I suppose, goes to show why he is the best in the category. He's just able to pull off this route like the back of his hand, you know? Second nature.
But once again, we do not want to overhype this yet. This run is long not over, and once again, in my opinion, not in my opinion, like arguably, objectively, the hardest part of the run is still to come.
Truth, yes. It could change on a moment's notice.
And yeah, especially like the way, like why we say the hardest sections of the run is not necessarily because these jumps or inputs are so hard, but the punishes for making mistakes get really, really high there, especially with Lost, where you can easily die everywhere, and Cap, where you need to make a pretty interesting jump over to the moonwalk. But we'll get there. Bayleef is not done with Wooded yet. The bird is hopefully on the way for him. So he was actually able to get that timer challenge before the bird. You can kind of switch it up. If you make a mistake, you can get that bird before the timer.
Yeah, there is a tiny bit of leeway there in the routing, but if you make too many mistakes, the bird is gone and you will have to back it up.
Exactly. So Bayleef getting one of my very favorite moons actually in the game. He did not do the strat I like most because the way you can disrespect this fire bro is actually hilarious. You can like triple jump into the room and instantly hit him, even though the game tries to make it hard on you for taking away your cap. And the subroom Bayleef is entering in right now is actually the easy version of one, as far as casual play goes, considered hardest moons in the game. There's a version of this room in the Dark Side Kingdom that is notoriously known for being one of the hardest sections in the game. And in Wooded, though, it's quite a lot easier.
Yes, much easier because you have Cappy for it. I think the difference is only that Dark Side takes Cappy away. There's also a section that you just saw him capture the bonsai bill there, Bullet William. he's able to just charge right back. Whereas without Cappy, you can't do any captures. You kind of have to do a bit of a long jump sequence in order to get back.
Yeah, and yeah, the dark side actually spaces them out quite insane. You actually need to play pretty well to get that, even as a speedrunner's point of view. But Bayleef obviously not having a problem, and also with Cappy, that section is quite a lot easier. Timp is on his bird cycle, and Bayleef is getting another timer challenge moon, actually pretty much 2 immediately after one of another. I guess there's one groundwork moon in between. But he's also almost done with the Wooded, being pretty tedious revisit, but he's getting close to Sand.
That's right. And Sand is another one of my... Actually, I feel like I'm saying about this every single kingdom that we approach. It's another one of my favorites in this run. There's just a lot of content that we cover, a lot of really fun moons to get.
Yeah, that entire section, the mid-post game, is the fun part, and I guess you can I guess you can't really have fun in Lost 2. I don't know why you would have fun in Lost 2. I mean, you can do some cool strats there, but it's just so punishing, and it's just so it's literally every time I ran this category, I said the Lost 2 route is made to make people suffer.
It's if you're a glutton for punishment, then you enjoy Lost 2. That's for sure.
Exactly. And yeah, Bayleef trying to get the hardest moon in the game, the Dune moon, the best hidden one, taking 3 attempts on that one. Once again, this moon is actually gotten in any percent, and even in any percent, people miss that occasionally.
Yeah, something about the angle from a darker side, the way that you approach it makes that more difficult for some reason.
So actually, one thing that might have gotten unnoticed there, Timp, almost having a very scary moment there. When you grab railings in this game, Mario sometimes gets locked into an animation where you can't cap throw and you can't do anything. And if he had fallen there, he would have fallen into the deep woods again, which we already were done with them at that point, so it would have been huge time loss. Avoiding it as Bayleef activates our first dog.
Oh yeah, little doggo. Now, he's making his camera a little bit difficult on purpose, because the dog is only going to be moving towards its objective if it's on camera. A lot of the objects in this game only respond and only activate if they're on camera. Enemies only spawn when they're on camera, for example. And so he's purposefully forcing his camera to look that direction so that the dog will start moving towards that moon. The game obviously wants you to kind of tag along with the dog, but because that's really slow for us, we do a bunch of stuff in between.
Exactly. So the dog will be done at this point, digging out a moon for us. Obviously, the way we get that, it's a very fast moon. We have the dog do his thing while we get some moons along the way. So we just return there, get a fast ground pound moon.
That's right. And he's also the only dog in the game that goes directly to the moon. As soon as you activate him. All the other dogs in the game pick a different objective to find first, and then you have to lead the dog to the moon afterwards, which is another reason why the Sand one is particularly fast.
We are going to be seeing one of these doggos in Metro, which is the next kingdom, but Sand is very long, just as long as Wooded in Metro, probably even longer. Arguably, I don't know what is technically the longest split, but all of them are pretty close.
Yes.
There's a lot to do. And yeah, another Goom Bad Moon coming up. We will be having another one in Luncheon. Ooh, very fancy jump there from Bayleef. There's actually some cool stuff you can do with these Goombas, obtaining momentum from these slopes and in general the way they jump.
Yeah,
and pretty crazy stuff.
Goombas take on momentum and velocity almost tenfold, it seems. So if you're on a slope, they jump way farther. If you're on a moving platform, they just go flying. And you can really use that to your advantage to gain some real speed with Goombas.
Ooh, Timpani sniping that dude with a spin pound even, so he definitely destroys that one.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody get it on the first try.
And then with the spin pound too, this guy is actually insane. But yeah, maybe he's actually manipulating that bullet bill or leading it to the spot, because if he was to capture it at that point, he wouldn't have been able to make it over there. And he's playing it very safe, capturing it, even leading it further. I think he could have made it over there, because you can abuse, and I see Bayleef not doing that strat right there. Interesting. But you can actually move the bullet bill without holding Y, which is faster, so you could have captured it quite a bit earlier, saved a little bit of time, but he's going to be heading over to the GSA section here. And only now is actually where GSA pays off.
Only now, yes. It took us probably about 2 hours to get here, but we finally got to the place where Jaxie's going to help us out a lot.
And yeah, by the way, something that only pays off now is it's interesting that Bayleef was actually on a bird cycle the entire time after he left the employees only moon, which was the hidden one in the shop. We just recently decided, I guess not too long ago, to visit that moon quite a bit later because the bird will be just comfortably on our way.
Yes.
And we saw it right there, why it's so useful.
Considering, of course, you do everything optimally up to that point.
Yeah, exactly.
And it is quite a big chunk. A lot of the other bird cycles are a little bit shorter and a little bit more accessible, I guess you could say.
No, yeah, definitely, exactly. But Bayleef is going to be having a little reunion here with his reunion, I guess, with one of these GSA bros. He's just stoned though, but our real GSA friend is still happy to see his relative, I guess. And yeah, we are done. They are happy. We are going to be calling GSA back soon, though. It's not completely done with him yet.
That's right. We're going to need him one more time in the future. Sand is a very vast kingdom. It's got a lot of open space, and kind of traversing it with just Mario is a little bit of a slow way to do it. So he's going to be helpful later.
Timpani actually unintentionally killing one of these Pumas he was about to capture there. And wow, Bayleef is getting some good fishing on right there. Definitely having quite good catches today. Once again, you can, due to RNG, lose some time to these, but Bayleef's having a good one today.
Yeah, getting lucky, that's for sure.
So, and these are, in terms of an any percent runner, some known territories. Once again, I mean, fishing is something we don't get. It's actually quite interesting if you play through Sand and any percent, you'll see the Lucky 2 frozen in these ice things. So it's kind of the hint that he'll return once you're done with this. But yeah, we get them now, and this is actually a section we have been looking in as far as like routing goes, even very currently, like very recently. Bayleef not doing any of that yet, and we don't even know if it's fast at all. But there's some crazy stuff you can do, and once again, in this entire category. But Bayleef is going to be getting that alcove in the Runes Moon in a very slow way, because he has to climb up all the way, and we try to basically fix it. But Timpani showing off Y, not holding Y is actually faster. He didn't hold Y there and flew all across the screen. And I'm sorry, I can't even stop talking. There's so much happening.
Yeah.
Get away.
Just it all happens all at once. Timpani making that jump there, that always scares me to do that dive. Very big potential to fall in the poison, and of course the poison is a one-hit kill. Not like the lava, there is no chance there to save yourself.
I guess it's a good and a bad thing, because we are actually going to be using that to our advantage in this kingdom.
Indeed, that's right.
But yeah, Bayleef collecting notes inside of the 2D tower. Once again, this was one, like, the game intended us to get this story section, this 2D section, pretty much is like the first thing we do in Sand. But we are 2 hours in, and oh, Bayleef almost dropping.
That was a save. That was a real good save.
Convenient bullet bill spots there for him. Bullet bill position.
Yeah, he also pulled off a trick. That kind of.
Yeah.
He was able to use the bullet bills to jump up to that top part of that 2D section rather than use the stairs on the right side. Very, very slick.
But yeah, this is a pretty interesting instance where you can talk to Peach from like super below. There's another instance where you can do that in Metro, potentially. We might see it later. I don't know what movement these guys do. But another lurker taken down by Bayleef. And I said it before, we are going to be calling our boy GSA back, and we are going to bring him some more memories.
That's right. You can see all his little statue buddies sitting on the corners, but there's one just conveniently open for him. And then we're also going to use him for a little bit longer because, like I said, the Sand Kingdom is a vast open kingdom. There's a lot of empty space. So in order to kind of traverse that a little bit faster, we're just going to keep him along for a ride.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, Bayleef just got a wooded hint art moon, the one we got after the moon rock. So once again, he had to look at that picture. Another pretty interesting moon coming up our way, where we just need to destroy these cacti. Ooh, I think I actually picked the right plural. I'm not sure. I think I might have.
I think you did, but I don't think the game does. Pretty
Yeah,
sure.
that's true.
I think the
don't
game
actually
says
know.
among the cactuses, which I suppose is not proper grammar, but
Yeah,
this here is my favorite sub area in Sand. Personally, feels very satisfying to pull it off very fast. And obviously, we do not do this the way that the game intended at all. It kind of did. They give you a coin stack to prove that getting up here was something that they thought you could do.
Exactly, and that's cool how Nintendo does that, like throughout the, especially Sand. There's another big one in the Knuckle Tag area where you get like hugely rewarded for being creative with your movement.
That's right. Yeah.
Like a ginormous deck. We don't need that. It's quite slow. It's gotten in the all unique moons route though. And Bayleef not opting for a pretty cool strat I've seen earlier just on Twitter, where you can basically clip into that timer section, timer challenge section. Yeah, that's fine. That's super new.
Yeah, I don't know if I've actually seen that.
Yeah, you can just roll like into the bounds of like the section and then jump up and regain your cap.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool.
Pretty hot.
Pretty
But
hot.
Timpani probably opting to go for that bullet bill skip up as well. The platforms are in a good spot. He needs to get the jumps up the bullet bills though. Oh,
he's just gonna miss the lower one, so he's gonna have to round.
Still getting some bullet bills along the way, kind of having his revenge.
Yeah.
And yeah, this sub room is looks hard, looks scary, but we do know there's some invisible platforms, and since we are speedrunners, we do know where they are.
Yes.
So we make that room look pretty easy.
And then we're gonna opt for a warp here, just to get out of this sub area a little bit faster. Like I said, this checkpoint in the middle of the kingdom at the top of this tower is a very good central location. Lots of stuff going on here.
I really loved Timpani's triple jump up there, keeping his momentum, definitely playing that very well. Having issues with the lurk, and once again, these lurkers can be quite annoying. There's going to be another specifically annoying one in Moon if you don't get that first try, because Moon makes it hard on you.
Indeed.
But Bayleef heading over towards this section where we'll find two very, very quick round pound moons, one of them being a Sand one and another one being a Bowser's hint art, so that's a very fast section.
Indeed, and some more invisible nonsense in case anybody was a little bit spooked by what was going on there.
It is kind of the mechanic the game tries to teach you there in Sand with these Mo eyes. You can like view the invisible sections. This moon is probably supposed to be gotten with them even too. But we've seen where the invisible stuff is, and after Bayleef gets this moon, he's going to be dying intentionally. I've talked about this. This poison is just such a quick way of dying, so we'll use that here to warp back to the tower.
Indeed, yep.
And yeah, Bayleef's pretty much done getting the lone pillar moon, and then he's going to be heading to Metro.
Just like that. And for fear of sounding like a broken record, I won't go and say that Metro is one of my favorite kingdoms to run in this category, even though it is. Even though it is.
You can. So, in my opinion, Metro is super fun up until bullet building.
True,
and yeah, bullet
yes.
building is the last sub-room in this game, and we've known for a pretty long time that it's optimally super quick. But to be quick in this is a huge pain, and we hopefully won't see any of these runners mess it up, but it is awful. And Bayleef is going to be getting one. Actually, it might not be the only one for him. I don't know like which backup moon he's going to be choosing in Lost. I think if you fail like the binoculars strat in Lost, you can get that binoculars moon. But the moon that Bayleef is going to be getting here, where he uses those binoculars to look and basically spot the swings, is pretty much the only one of these we get intentionally.
Yes, because this particular animation takes a very, very long time. And I think this is probably the shortest out of all of them. And it also just places the moon exactly in the direction that we were supposed to be going anyway, so.
But yeah, Bayleef getting additional seats once again. Setup paying off. Also, like, the start of Metro once again just shows how quick these moons can be after you hit the moon. We're getting this one here from the Head and Seek guy. Then we are going to be getting over to the Hint Art moon that we looked in Seaside, that we spotted in Seaside, and then we're going to be doing Scoot Clip, and it's just happening and happening and happening. Moons,
Yeah.
moons.
It's just like a perfect little loop all the way through the city here. Oh, and he's just missing the Scoot Clip that first go. Having a little bit of trouble there.
Yeah, this can be quite awkward. We know that from any percent. At this point, it probably wasn't worth for him. And he's actually going to be getting one of his backup moon here in the shop. That's one that's not usually in the route. But since he did pass on, like, unintentionally pass on, I think, on
It was Twist and Turn, I believe,
yeah, treasure. He's going to be buying that. And he's fine on coins. Just on how weights. It's a bit slow. He's fine. For sure, though.
And then we're going to approach a series of timer challenges here. Nothing too scary about them. You just got to make sure to jump over these crevices. Make sure that you don't jump too fast after this next one, because you don't have Cappy yet. And I've made this mistake before, trying to take this long jump without Cappy to save you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, these timer challenges. And we get 2 in a row. Timpani doing his death OP. He's basically done with sand. Only that Pillar Moon, and he's also going to be off to Metro. He might also get the Shop Moon here, because he did skip the one in the Deep Woods. We'll see.
That's right. Yes.
But yeah, Bayleef done with his timer challenges, and he's off to a harder version of the slots. And it's actually funny how progressively these slots get. I mean, they don't really get harder in terms of actual mechanics, but the game wants them to be harder. We get the 3 version, now it's the 4 slot version, and in lunch we're going to be getting the 5 slots version.
It just so happens that we approach them in that order too. It's kind of fun.
But yeah, by the way, if you haven't noticed yet, runners pretty much put Cappy to the left of these slots, and once the first slot spot shows the moon, you can release Cappy while you run, basically to have Cappy in a straight line, and you'll get them, all of them. I mean, it's definitely RNG. I mean, I was definitely lying. That is completely RNG. These runners actually winning the lottery right now, live on television.
100% of the time. It's amazing. How do they do it?
I don't know. They're just lucky, dude. Speedrunners always lucky. But yeah, I also, I mean, we are giving Darker Side so much love, and I guess it's deserved. It is so fun to do, especially this post-game section, but this section in particular, the upper section of Metro on these roofs feels so fun to do. You like fly over these sections with these poles, use these wires, grab these fast moons. And I don't know what movement Bayleef is going to be doing for Peach and the Great Moon.
I've seen a bunch of different strategies for this.
Yeah, so he's doing that. I've seen Neo do like a movement where you talk to her from like below and then you spin pound over. I really like that one. Bayleef is probably going to be flinging himself over to the crate.
Yes, that's what I do too. Because this is another one of those bullseye moments. Very satisfying
I can see that.
The ground pound.
So Tim, actually, he didn't capture the chain jump earlier, so he's basically getting two, like he's getting 2 advantages at once. So he's also not having to deal with Q-tip, which is faster, but obviously harder. And he's also getting that capture for free, that additional capture by capturing the RC car guy. And that's quite convenient. He also actually does not opt to go for that shop moon. He's maybe going to be going towards Tiles.
That's probably the good choice there. Now, somebody in chat mentioned that Timpani grabbed the M in the plaza area of the city. That's because of the Toadette Moon achievement. The way that we have the route set up, the amount of captures that we get is just 1 less than we actually need for a particular Toadette Moon. So we just do that extra capture just so that we have the amount of captures that we need for that Toadette Moon at the end.
Might have lost me for a second there. Not sure if I'm back, but it is in fact 3:40 a.m. in Germany, so my router was actually just restarting.
Ah, yes. All was well. Didn't lose it.
Okay, fine. So Timpani also insane RNG. Actually, I don't know how he does it, but he should get a lottery ticket as soon as possible.
Yes, and they still have one more to go. Can you imagine if they got
yeah.
them all 3?
I mean, there's no way. I mean,
No.
it's literally impossible just thinking about it.
I couldn't imagine.
Yeah, me neither. But Bayleef is done with the park, and he's going to be heading in one of my favorite subrooms if you do him well.
I do rather enjoy this one as well, actually. Ooh, and he gets the pipe suck from the side.
Woo.
Very fancy.
Yo, those moon pipes. By the way, if you haven't noticed it, these pipes, these gray pipes, actually are moon pipes, so they only spawn. There's like a visual sign of that. They only spawn because of the moon rock being hit.
That's
And
right.
one thing that, by the way, that I want to point out one more time, like right now, Scoot Clip was literally the only really visible mistake Bayleef did in the entire post game.
It's true.
Like if you just go back the way he's been playing, and he's obviously opting not always for the very fancy super fast strats, he's just sometimes opting for the consistent and like, I guess, confident version. But he's been knocking it out of the park, as they say.
He's
and
been
definitely
popping off.
That's actually even better, yeah. Definitely showing why he's a very good runner of this category. Timpani just bonking into the crate, also releasing the moon.
Yes, another solid way of going about it. Now, this is another one of my favorite parts of this run. We're going to use the scooter, and we're going to try and land it in a little parking space below us here, and grab this dumpster moon that this is very familiar in any percent.
Yeah, I do like that way of getting it though quite a bit more, because it's harder to drop like sometimes also this moon likes to drop inputs on you. But yeah, Bayleef getting quite a decent parking. You can be quite more optimal there. One subroom that I actually quickly want to touch on, because Timpani just did it and we haven't gotten to touch on it yet, is the way we did that subroom. We activated the timer, got that head and seeker, and then still got the secret moon, getting free miss pretty quickly.
Just in time. And Timpani is approaching that plaza. Again, the reason that we skipped that rubbish moon in the first place was so that we can spare some time while this dog is doing his thing, digging around.
Yeah, for sure. That's the reason why we don't get that moon in the first visit. Also the bird that we can just conveniently pick up, and Timpani actually playing that well as well. Also not making too many mistakes. Bayleef, just like that section is still fun. He also gets that bird, which can be a bit annoying. But yeah, right now that sub-rule is the one and even Kitty usually is pretty scared about, it seems.
Yeah, she doesn't like it very much.
It is scary. It also, like, this is even worse when it comes to dropping inputs. It also, like, you can do some crazy stuff there. You can even capture the bullet bill to fly over to the secret moon. Pretty sure Bayleef is going to be opting for like a pole strat where he rolls on top. Let's see if he gets that.
Yeah, it looks like he's going for that one.
He's making it look pretty easy, but I really have a problem with that room.
Something about, like, I've never had Cappy cooperate with me when I try and do that strat. He goes off direction, and I am not able to pull off my dive properly and just, you know, take a couple deaths in that room. It happens.
Did you see a comment that might have looked like some confusing things happening? Timpani actually earlier captured the letter M, which seemed like, why would he do that? But once again, that's considered a unique capture, and he does need them for the achievement later.
That's right, yeah.
And Bayleef is heading into, by the way, into Lake 2, which once again is one of my favorite. Now, it's actually not that much, because Lake is pretty tedious and pretty quote-unquote boring, but it does have 2 very cool sub-rooms in it, which they will be doing. And fishing,
Yes.
the last one, number 3, coming up. Let's see how lucky Bayleef is on that one.
Very lucky. Just the fact that the fish was in the middle of the lake looking in the right direction is a bonus, but it is taking a couple nibbles, it looks like. And he almost got jebaited by the other little fish there, just in time though.
Yeah, the fish positioning was quite nice, but not the optimal way of the fish like taking the bait. Not the biggest deal. He's going to be getting these nodes, which they are not sure if he still gets the spin for. Just barely missing it, but the intended strat he went for is pretty cool, because you activate nodes and then still get them with that spin throw.
That's right, yeah. Big fan of that strat. Yeah, most of Lake itself might be rather boring, but again, those sub areas definitely make up for the rest of the kingdom. There's a couple of very fast strats that you can do for both of the rooms that make them look very satisfying.
Bayleef barely making it over to the Moonrock, hitting it to unleash the power of the Moonrock moons. Once again, the section coming up can be quite a bit tedious, but yeah, waves of poison. It does sound scary. It really is. Is something that's going to be coming up pretty soon, and if you do it well, it looks very cool.
Timpani also getting that bird from the top of that post. It's a very, very tricky moon to get, especially when you're starting out running this category.
When we wait birds, though, the hardest and most annoying one to get is by far, in my opinion, the Cap Kingdom one, which we will still be seeing. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
10 out of 10. That one gives me nightmares, even to this day.
It's also the way he like moves. He literally tries to disrespect you.
Yeah,
But-
that's true.
Oh, Timpani showing off bullet building.
Showing off why this room sucks. It's definitely an unfortunate one.
So I think he went for his movement he usually would do in the longer category, since he also grabs the purples along the way. It's probably just what he's used to. But he's going to be able to basically take that shortcut here. Let's not get hit by these bullet builds. And he makes it over now. That's nice.
There we go.
Bayleef some very good waves of poison movement here, by the way. Getting that spaced out triple jump over these platforms to catch a pretty early cycle.
And then warping back to the center plaza. Timpani is on his way to Lake Kingdom now.
Oh, that was pretty sure unintentional what Bayleef did right there. Usually you want to start off doing that timer challenge, but he just didn't get his spin pound and probably just dived down into the water.
Ah, yes. He's going to have to do that one again. Kitten calling him out on the mistake there.
I agree. Oh, Timpani actually doing that wall. That's cool. Makes it so that you can make it over there without touching any water. I might actually take that one. Usually setting up a cap throw can be quite slow, but that one
Indeed.
seems worth. Timpani first bite.
Ooh, very, very lucky fish there, yep.
And yeah, Bayleef is going to be getting a hint at moon here. Got that one from Metro, close to the trumpeter, if you remember. And no Neo drums to be found. There's actually a pretty cool strat you can do with the fish there, because a moon we get after that NPC is about swimming down with a cheap, but he's just going to be, Bayleef's just going to be opting to go and get that cheap now to swim there.
From what I understand, it's more for swag points and less for time save, unfortunately.
Which is arguably way more important.
Of course. Every swag point you get saves 20 minutes.
At least.
At least.
So Timpani, I think, dropping, like, unintentionally getting a rainbow spin there. He has a quick backup. Getting back up there. And yeah, Bayleef getting both of these moons here. Once again, this is an instance of Moonrocks changing the routing so much, because that moon wouldn't have been there before, and now it's just sitting there being so fast. Like,
That's
that moon
right.
is so
Captain
quick.
Toad would not be worth it if it weren't for
Yeah.
the fact that there's another moon sitting down there as well.
Exactly. It is apparently also a achievement, so I guess it might pay off. But that moon just makes it even more worth it, for sure.
Indeed, yeah.
And yeah, she did meet a Lake Cheap. That's, I think, kind of what that moon is called. But that lady wants to meet a Cheap, and we do her the favor. Show her the Cheap. And Timpani's going to be getting himself into some waves of poison.
A very frustrating sub area for a beginner. I remember my very first Darker Side runners. My Darker Side run. The very first one took me about 6 minutes to finish this particular room. Because the strategy here is that you use the frogs that they give you at the very beginning, and you kind of manipulate your jumps very slowly across. But it's also incredibly slow to do it that way.
Yeah, one thing that is worth pointing out, we get that moon in that way, but it's literally on some people's, like, if you watch some people that complete that game casually, that moon would be on their, like, top hardest moons I got in Super Mario Odyssey lists.
Yes, true.
And we need to basically destroy it as fast as we can to make those moons worth.
Right, and Bayleef is just about to approach the other very fun sub-area of this kingdom. There are a couple of different ways that you can approach this in the fastest way. Let's see which one Bayleef opts for here. Going for the triple jump around.
Yeah, one thing that is pretty important when it comes to this section, and especially, is you want to actually have Mario sit on the ground, because Bayleef did do that right, but if you instantly jump on top of the flower, the game wouldn't have considered that as landing on the ground. And landing on the ground in this game restores the ability of cap bouncing. So if he missed, if he instantly hit that flower, he would have actually fallen down all the way. But Bayleef is pretty much done with Lake and is heading into Luncheon, which is the way they are going to be doing it now, which is once again not the very fastest route available right now. Also a pretty long split. I mean, not a pretty long split, not close to like sand, but there's also some stuff to do here.
Indeed, yes. A couple of very tricky jumps as well.
And also, I'm pretty sure at this point, Bayleef does have a quite confident lead. He might do us the favor, because there is another one of these jamming toads on our way. These toads where we can basically, like, they want us to play a specific track to please them, and he will have the opportunity to pick the huge crowd favorite between these tracks. Let's see if he opts for it.
We can only hope so. Yeah, and track 4 is the choice, the optimal speed choice. But we like to have fun here sometimes.
Exactly. So Bayleef is taking damage, but he's actually in a very nice position where he can just grab that checkpoint. It was literally there for him to save him. He would have gotten that damage refill animation, but he's going to be heading into Fogs, and yeah, that section once again is one we get. Any percent before, though, needs to get the moon rock to spawn in these fast moons.
Yeah. Scattered all throughout. We kind of do a big loop of Luncheon, kind of stop off a bunch of different places, and the moon, all of the moon rock moons tend to be some of the fastest, so it's very important that we go out of our way to break those as soon as we can in these kingdoms.
Exactly. So one thing that I do like about the, I mean, it's hard to say, but one thing that I do like about that route is that we literally basically have a dedicated moon dump split, because while Bayleef is doing that form section very nicely, you can basically look at these runners left side of the screen. It is literally filled completely with moons.
Indeed.
And at some point we need to fill them into the Odyssey. And it's one of the most satisfying moments in the entire run, when you actually get to hit that globe and get to unload all of these moons.
That's right, and we are very, very near that particular moment.
The route they choose, we are going to be doing that in Mushroom, literally dedicated as like a moon dump split, I guess. Timpani going through that sub room, going for those tight dives. And yeah, Bayleef is going to be opting to do a pretty tight, tricky jump here very soon. There's
One of
a
my
timer
favorite in the run.
It is super fun. You can explain it right here.
Right, so we have to activate the timer challenge for the timer challenge moons as required for Toadette. But we originally used to get Captain Toad first, who's kind of chilling across the lava pond here. But instead, what we're going to do is a very, very tight timed jump. We're going to get Cappy back just in time and make it all the way across here. And Bayleef, of course, pulls it off just perfectly.
Yeah, been playing fantastically. Once again, just have to say it. And once again, Timpani's still hanging in there. It's like 3 a.m. for him right now. He's going strong. And yeah, you can kind of use some visual cues for the trick. What I usually do is I wait like until that timer challenge like blinked for the 3rd time.
That's right.
But it's still even still, you can still mess that up.
Yeah, it is very picky. You also can't be too far forward on the platform. Cappy has to travel a longer distance. Like it's very specific about your positioning and your timing, and a very cool jump to be able to pull off.
And I do really like that sub area that Bayleef is getting into right now.
Me too.
It seems a bit slow, but like the aesthetic is super cool because it has these flying lava like islands around, and these moons are so quick. Like you capture that bubble, get that one, then you shoot another cannon, and you instantly get another moon.
Yeah, just like that.
I do want to remind you guys one more time that as that moon dump happens, we are going literally into the hardest section of the run. And Timpani is still hanging in there, so we are going to be going into Cap 2. We are going to be going into Lost 2. I guess Moon 2 is kind of relaxing, but Darker Side, it's so big, you can literally lose like up to 5 minutes there. We've seen people lose 10 in Darker Side.
It's true. Anything could happen at this moment still.
Definitely good thing to point out one more time. But yeah, I really like the moon Bayleef just got. You can like snipe those fireballs into these torches. Timpani cleaning up folks, and we will be getting another good bad moon right here. I think it's our last one. As far as because yeah, I'm pretty
believe
sure.
You're right. Yeah, that's right. And I believe this one actually puts you over the Toadette achievement, but it's fast enough moon that we get it. Anyway.
I think I've seen people say earlier that's exactly the 5th, so I think we are good to go.
Gotcha.
But yeah, Timpani opting to get that moon without a Podoboo lava bubble. I've heard that lava bubble is actually faster, but it can be quite awkward to snipe that moon out of it, so I can kind of relate. But yeah, Bayleef is going to be making a huge decision very soon. What do you think? Is it going to be track 4 or is it going to be track 46?
I hope he does it for the people. I hope it's track 46. But we'll just have to see.
Track 4 is obviously faster because it's closer to the selection, but 46 is way better, so we'll see what Bayleef decides to do.
Oh, he chooses track 4.
Oh, and by the way, one thing that I want to point out is, do you know how Bayleef's pace is right now?
Do we know how it is? Let's have a look here.
Because even though he's been making huge mistakes in the... Okay, never mind. I was right about to ask if he was maybe like playing super well, like close to PvP, but he's doing it for the people, as Timpani sadly. By the way,
did he just switch the song back?
he switched the songs back.
Oh, there you go.
Timpani sadly not able to make that pretty sketchy jump.
Oh, he's going around the corner for a little bit of extra support there, it looks like. I didn't actually even know that was there.
I just recently found that, and what he does there should be faster, because that way you don't need to wait for the timer challenge here to end. So that's a smart decision.
Right. Very cool.
And also he's going to be having a 6-star potentially going into Dark Age. What? Bayleef winning the jackpot. 5 moons. 3 out of 3. He's winning the lottery. I can't believe it.
Yep, sign me up. That's all. I'll get a lottery ticket on Bayleef's back because this is sensational.
I'm hopping in.
His hopping in
has been incredible.
He should run Pokemon. He'd have a good time in Pokemon.
Dude, he'd be the best. And he is Bayleef after all, so it does make sense. But yeah, getting some additional any percent moons right here. You guys might know them as Timpani actually probably out of that was definitely not intentional, as he dumps all of his moons here, thinking he probably did Luncheon 3.
I think that's where he's going.
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna be going to...
Unless he goes back, he's going to be going to Cat Kingdom now.
Yeah, he's going to be going to Cap.
So it's going to throw a wrench in kind of where the pace is. We can expect Bayleef to be ahead still, as long as he plays as consistently as he has been.
Yeah, I just realized because he was still like, that was still the just total fine, like total normal Luncheon 3. Not sure if it was out of what is it, like muscle memory, but I guess that's making up for quite the interesting change of pace, because currently I mean we will only really be able to tell like when they get like into I guess actually into Toadette, who is going to be ahead.
More or less, yeah. It'll be like as soon as Mushroom comes along, because they both opted to do all the mushroom stuff the first visit, so they'll both be grabbing the seeds and grabbing the tourist and then going directly to Toadette once they get to Mushroom.
So there's a lot of things happening at the same time. First, Timpani got that very precise moon cube or moon rock jump the first try. It's pretty hard to do, it's pretty fancy, and it saves time. The other thing is, you guys, and we've talked about this earlier, Timpani actually went for the fastest route we currently know of, which we dump all of our moons in Luncheon, and we go to these later game kingdoms, which are super hard earlier. And then we do... The thing, though, which is interesting, he did his mushroom stuff in advance, and usually you don't do that if you do that route. So he's kind of freestyling it. But yeah, Timpani in pretty much the hardest section of the run, the category, and Bayleef is about to go there soon after he dumps his moon in mushroom.
Now, there's actually something to be noted there. So we know that Timpani went ahead with the newest Deep Woods route as well. Oh, Bayleef missing the 2D jump there. He's gonna have to redo that one, maybe take it safe the next time. But because Timpani decided to go for the Deep Woods route, he missed a moon there, and he hasn't backed it up yet, which means that the strat is still viable for him.
Yeah, there's still the mushroom like tiles thing. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Bayleef going for it again and gets it. What a man. Deserves it one, because that is one of... Oh, almost dying. They're dodging that fireball. Maybe he was speaking too early. But yeah, that moon barely cuts it. That's a super slow moon. It just cuts it because it's a 2D moon. And once again, these 2D moons count for any percent. As Timpani is playing the very own Peach's Slide version, basically, of Super Mario Odyssey.
Yes, and it's a very weird sub-area because it actually locks you into the rolling animation, which has been notoriously trolly for some runners, because if you hit a spiny, it can sometimes send you in the wrong direction, and you have to start the run over.
Exactly. So Timpani is going to be going into one of the pretty sketchy sections. By the way, shoutouts to the very first checkpoint we got. Because we used it right now, and it obviously saves a lot of time because we don't need to go through this frog section. If you missed that checkpoint, you would lose a ton of time, but Timpani already obviously got it, as we have some moon dumping going on for the Bayleef. Very satisfying as always. Timpani making the jump over this moon can be quite tricky and deceiving, but that's a nice execution on that one, and he's going to be intentionally dying here. He can't even save himself anyways.
Yeah, there's nothing you can really do to save yourself there, which is good because it puts you right in position for this next moon here over the edge of the cap.
So going from now already, like even after that death, Timp is going to be on a bird cycle. And once again, we've talked about this bird earlier. It's one of the most annoying birds, just of the appearance and the way he moves and tries to disrespect you. But it's also fairly hard to actually catch. Like even that small missed input from Timpani, not reading the hint out immediately, might cause him to miss the bird just slightly. Yeah. You have some leadway, but it's pretty tight. And Timpani starting, Bayleef starting cap 2, but he obviously is already done with additional mushroom stuff and Luncheon.
Yes. With mushroom, it's just the secret passage moon, I suppose you could say. But with Luncheon, yeah, there is quite a big section that Timpani still has to go through.
Yeah, don't get baited. Bayleef is probably still fairly ahead, but once again, they are heading into the very hard section. So because already Timp has been playing very well. Bayleef has died in Luncheon, and Timp has not been making many mistakes here in cap as he gets that star, which is the hint at moon he already looked at earlier in Peach's Castle.
That's right. And so Timp here, as he's approaching the burn moon that we were just talking about, the cycle is pretty tight. You're going to see him fly across the screen coming in from the right.
Fine.
He's good.
That's actually perfect. Yeah, that's just how you want it to be.
Exactly, yeah. I've actually gotten it slightly earlier than that, and you kind of, like we said, he's kind of like an NFL quarterback or something. If you approach this bird from the front, he'll kind of try and dodge you and go the other way. So you kind of have to come in behind him to make sure that he doesn't do that.
Yep, I can see that. And yeah, Timpani only having to rip that danger sign in the back, a bunny moon, and then he's going to be fine as far as cap goes. And he's going to be heading into Lost, which is very scary.
Yeah, Lost 2 is it's fun. We'll say that.
So Bayleef going onto the slide. Will he get the 12.5? I'm not quite sure yet. It would actually be such a cool throwback to have, like, because this is an obvious like play on the Peach slide, I guess.
Definitely, yeah.
Like
If they threw in like an in-game timer for you.
Yeah, I'd love that because there's not many in-game timers. I guess there's Cooper Free running and like the bound ball. We've seen that, but would be pretty cool here.
Yeah, Kitten is a big fan of Lost 2, as you can tell.
It is quite. I'm at the lack of words because that's just how Lost goes. But it's quite shocking. Exactly. That's what I was gonna say.
You're at a loss for words, is what you can say.
Dude, you couldn't have said it better. We start this kingdom off with a immediate warp. At least if you are not doing the binocular strat for the twist and turn up treasure, and Tim already got that moon. So it's gonna be talking to Peach and then heading over to activate the Moonrock. But after the Moonrock, it is where it gets really scary, because not only is all of that insta-killing poison around, but we are going to be doing a pretty interesting long jump over to Captain Toad. We are going to be doing some intense jumping up trees to get moons, and yeah, Bayleef getting that weird moon.
Yes, that's always a fun one to watch. That I love getting the vector perfectly right on that moon. Like Lost in itself is already a tricky enough kingdom, and the routing that we do just makes it even worse. So
yeah, for sure. As I said, like sometimes it feels like this is made to make you suffer, and Timpani showing off why, but that's obviously not even the worst part. It's just like the part that is really scary is coming up very soon. It's the long jump over to the Captain Toad area. It's the way we get shards. It's the way we jump up to that Wiggler node section. We're going to be seeing that soon.
That's right. The particular shards up ahead here is made easier by capturing the Wiggler, but of course that is very slow, so we choose not to.
Ooh, nice. Tim getting that jump without any problems. That's a scary one, and if you miss it, you'll die and be at the Moonrock position, because that sets the checkpoint. And I've been at that Moonrock a lot of times. Let's say that.
Yes.
And, ooh, that was so close, but Timpani making that jump, that's another
making it work.
One that can be scary.
Now approaching the very dangerous shards portion.
Oh, that jump is actually he's a man.
Yeah. That's how you know you are good at the video game, that one.
Oh, he's a man.
And that one, too.
That spin count, too. That's actually crazy. Dude, Timpani's just playing this Lost like it was, like, I don't even know.
It's child's play for him.
That's some mad execution there. And yeah, I've been hyping this up. It's one of the hardest kingdoms, and it really can be, but Timpani's playing that very well. I don't want to jinx him yet. There's still some sections to go. But in my opinion, he's done with the hardest part, at least.
Indeed, yeah. And he's actually going to make this harder for himself, too. He's going to go for the Wigglerless notes. But he also makes that look easy, of course, too.
Yeah, if he keeps playing like this Lost might end up being a gold for him. He's playing this very solid. And there's still some things he needs to do. He needs to grab that bunny, getting that pretty fine. Still needs to make that one shot with one of the torpedoes, but after that is only a small timer challenge, and I think he's on a very good way to make this Lost perfectly fine for him, like very clean Lost so far.
He's going to be
going for that Equan strat.
And nails it. Beauty.
That's actually crazy. This Lost is just delivering on all ways.
I feel like we haven't been able to do this kingdom justice now. We've been talking about how hard it is, and yet Timpani makes it look so easy.
I guess Bayleef still has the chance to support us on that one, even though I don't obviously hope it for him. Yeah. Oh, that grab actually can cost you, because you are on that timer cycle and you need to grab this additional moon. So he can't miss it. It's a big one, but he's gonna be fine. Yeah, that's pretty sure that's gonna be a gold for him. Like I can't really imagine if he got a Lost that clean before, even getting that Equan strat, like we call that strat with the true people, but pretty much flawless. One bonk actually I've seen there at the very early tree stump.
And maybe a ledge grab getting into Captain Toad, and that's all the time loss I was able to notice. Very good.
Yeah, definitely agree with people that that's probably the best Lost 2 I've seen so far. But people are getting better. and Timpani does have some big experience as far as he knows. And one thing that I do find so interesting right now is, like, depending on how Bayleef's loss is going right now, Timpani might like sneakily catch up here on Bayleef, because it does obviously look like Timp is ahead, but he's not. He still needs to do some additional stuff, and even that loss won't be enough for him to catch up yet. It's going to be dependent on how Bayleef's loss is going, though.
Indeed, and it could go anyway. Knowing Bayleef, he's going to opt for some of the easier, maybe more consistent routing options. I know that he doesn't usually do that Captain Toad jump. He'll usually go overhead and grab the one that's on top of the tree first.
And slide that, yeah.
Safer way to do the whole route this way. But the shards
I can respect that. I definitely can respect it. Tim, when it works, you kind of question yourself why you wouldn't do that, because it looked so easy for Tim. It is not. I can guarantee you. Try it yourself. It's a pain. And Tim is actually in one of the more relaxing kingdoms right now, which is the Moon Revisit. It's pretty much only like we get one of these lurkers and get a moon high up, but the rest is talking, ground pounding, and then these 2 jumps in the 2D section.
Yeah, and Timp is going to do the 2 jump strat here. He might take damage, but by not having to wait for the fuzzies to be in an optimal place, he's going to be able to get to the moon a little bit quicker.
And even with that damage refill, it ends up being worth
about a second.
But Bayleef also opting for that instant jump over, not playing it safe at all.
Oh, but taking a death as a result.
So the good thing with these shards is they are going to be saved. So he's not going to be needing to, he doesn't have to re-grab those shards. And that's not the biggest, like the most costly death. He's pretty close, but it's still a death, and it's a death animation. He needs to go back. But to be honest, that's like how you expect Lost to go, in my opinion, at least. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah,
I expect like a death. And
I don't think I even have a split in Darker Side that doesn't have a death in Lost 2 yet. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, I can see that. So Timpani needs to go through the cleanup section here of Luncheon, which is about the fogs, and he's going to be needing to get these ground pound moons, the 2D moon, and so on. So he still has a lot to do, probably still behind Bayleef. But Bayleef still needs to finish Lost, and he's going to be taking the Wiggly, which is actually slower. If you... I guess if you need to play the Wigglerless strat quite optimal to save time, but because he probably actually saved time here over Timpani. That was pretty clean execution.
Yeah, it's also just more consistent. You have a little bit more leeway in making mistakes when you've got the Wiggler to kind of stretch and save up the time.
Yeah, also pretty cool and pretty easy on you how he actually ended up getting the bunny. He pretty much forced the bunny to commit, I guess, to stun himself into the Wiggler. But
that's right, yeah.
Opting for that crazy strat, he already activated. Actually, he could have just made that. Like he showed that he was confident doing that movement, but ends up playing it a bit safer.
That's also the way I do it too. The other option is to kind of wait by the beetle and have him shoot over your head and then run after him. But of course, exactly. that one is the slowest of the 3 options that you have.
So if Bayleef ends up getting that timer challenge, which I would assume, because that first jump seemed just fine, that loss was still totally fine. That only real mistake, obviously, having that death.
Yeah, and we're looking at about 20 to 25 seconds there, maybe. But not quite the full lead, I don't think, blown on that trick.
Nah, definitely not yet. Still being confidently ahead as Timp almost falls into that, I guess, whatever it is, like molten cupcake glazing, icing, I don't know. But bonking, which is obviously also not optimal.
Not usually.
What track, though, is Timpani going to pick? I'm fairly certain it's going to be the 46 for him.
Timpani is definitely a 46 advocate.
For sure.
Do it for the people.
Obviously. What? Track 45? What? Wait, okay, he actually got 46. It looked like 45 for me, you know? Wait. It was 46, right?
Perhaps it was 45. I feel like there is a handful of tracks that are okay.
Oh, you can use 45? I actually never know that. What is it even? Am I able to hear it?
I feel like Timp is just memeing at this point. Choking.
I mean, he did get the moon, and he did actually not have the best RNG right there. Logic ticket not working out perfectly from having to reactivate that shot. Yeah, but Bayleef is pretty much showing his real pace right now. So both of them are going to be needing to revisit Mushroom, obviously. So Timpani still has to get that additional chimney moon on Yoshi's Island that Bayleef already got, but that's not a big deal. They will both still be warping. And actually they won't, because Bayleef is just going to be starting at the point of the Odyssey. But yeah, Bayleef still definitely being a Tim still has to go through forks and still has to go through all the fixed cracks are fixed and the 2D moon. But once again, that's like exactly the lead you can lose in Darker Side in that Bayleef still has.
It's very easy to just kind of slip in this category, I find. You can be running somewhere up of like 3 minutes ahead and then just lose it all in like, especially at the end. These last couple of kingdoms are very difficult.
Yeah, exactly. And the way Timp actually paced that out is something that we are going to be able to really enjoy here and going to be like, kind of taken advantage of, because the main thing that Bayleef is going to be starting to do very soon is going to be lead to that achievement. So this is where all our work pays off in the most boring way imaginable.
Indeed.
So obviously we do a lot of setups as far as the 80% route goes to have fun in the post game, but what we really do is actually get these achievements, and the way we reap them in is entirely different, because people that coded SMS like Mario Sunshine were actually smart and were able to like have the blue coin guy give you all of the shines at the same time. But no, so that isn't that way. We need to talk to her all the time. Like for every moon we need to talk to her. It's going to take, as you said, about like 8 seconds. And yeah, we just recently found a strat where we go into first person mode to initiate that talk, which is just slightly faster, but it ends up paying off around like 12 seconds actually if you do that for every talk initiation.
Yeah,
which just makes it even more tedious.
We're looking at about 9 seconds of time save if you were to pull off every single first person strat optimally.
Yeah, let's say 10-9 or whatever. Again, exactly like that's a bit.
Exactly, yeah. It's I mean, it is worth it because it is for time save. It changes those Toadette moons from 8 seconds to what, like 7.8. So
yeah.
But when you have to get 30 of them, it does add up quite quickly.
Sure. So Timpani definitely made up some good time here on Bayleef. So Bayleef, obviously, like Timpani still has to get these moons here in with the cracks, and he still has to get his backup moon. By the way, I think he still needs to get probably tiles.
He's probably gonna get tiles.
Wait,
yeah.
Bayleef is getting tiles. What did he skip?
What did he skip? I know he usually gets tiles in his run, but I didn't notice.
Though, like he didn't get. He got the shop moon in Metro, but he didn't get twist and turn up treasure. But looking at the other moons, I'm not entirely sure what he skipped.
Yeah, he might have skipped cracks. Actually, I don't think he does.
Oh, he might have skipped cracks. Yeah, I'm not sure if he actually. I can't remember him doing that. So you might be right. And by the way, cracks being that moon that Timpani just got, where he basically ground pounds these cracks in the ground to get a moon.
Yeah, and it's kind of debatable which one is faster. They're about the same.
Yeah, probably depends on how you do them. But yeah, Bayleef showing off the first person. So that's right. It is visibly fast because you cut out all of this camera panning and all of that. Trying to actually mesh like frame perfectly, which is like technically the fastest way to initiate the talk without the first person. He actually did not get it there, but yeah. But once again, I do want to remember here that Timpani definitely, like looking at it right now, made up some time. Bayleef just barely started his adventure with Toadette, so they will be into that. Pretty sure they will be into that at the same time. Which just goes to show that Darker Side can still decide this race, like the actual Darker Side dungeon.
Interesting style choice by Timpani there. He's opting to buy the, I don't know what even it is, the suit. He's gearing up for the Darker Side Kingdom, it looks like.
So he definitely takes this one seriously for sure. And like, why I don't know, like, I maybe can't 100% support the choice. It's obviously, I mean, it's actually, since you visit that shop, it is definitely not too slow because you already are in there, you already loaded. It probably loses like what, 5-10 seconds, but you are prepped. And the way this race is set up is either it's going to be Bayleef dying in Darker Side like fairly late and Timpani being able to snag in a win even with that suit, or it's going to be Bayleef closing that out. So I can actually respect the choice at the end. Respect the choice at the end.
Mostly
even
a style choice, if I had to guess.
Yep, I hear some confirmation right there. Definitely confirmed. But Timpani getting his seats and he's going to be off to tiles probably first, and after that's going to be
backup moon.
Exactly, and after that it's going to be toward that time as well. So we might actually get the chance of Bayleef already leaving, so we won't be sitting into that for too long, which is, I guess, kind of appreciated. It's kind of interesting to see people race toward that, but they are still here at the same time.
Indeed, and I think that how many moons does Bayleef have here? Oh, we're still looking at like 30-ish, so we still got a handful more to go. I don't actually remember the not luncheon 3 strat, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, not exactly, but it's set up in a way that Timpani is going to be dumping some more moons at the very end.
Indeed, yeah. Timpani's total with the extra moon should be about, I think it's 66 he needs. Yeah, that's right, Kitten.
Yeah, that's confirmed at this point. But actually, one thing that I'm curious about, Timpani is still going for those first-person shots, but in that case, it looked so fast it almost wasn't visible. It's pretty cool. Wow, these are actually great. Wait, is that even first-person?
This is like BTT strats over here.
Yo, these actually, they look like normal talks. I'm actually still confused because they are so quick. But yeah, these are still first person talks. Timpani is just nailing them.
Yeah, he's just getting it really, really frame perfect there.
It will end up paying off, even if it's just a little bit. But Bayleef is already done with his achievement talks, which is nice for us because we will be able to hopefully cheer him on. He did get the 500 moons. That's always like you can kind of take a breather because that allows him to go into the darker side, which is going to be our final challenge here.
Nothing hurts more than that final dump and realizing you have 499.
It does. And the way this rule set of this category works is actually that you are not allowed to get duplicate moons, which makes it so that you won't be able to just go into the mushroom shop and just buy another moon. So you need to come up with something creative.
Yeah, and there's not very many backups in mushroom, especially if you've already taken tiles like these guys have.
Exactly. But yeah, Bayleef doing some vectoring up there to capture that frog. And this is where 1.2 has, I guess it's not even considered 1.2 anymore. The leaderboard at this point is split between doing the notorious frog skip and no frog skip, and we are going to be doing the no frog skip.
Correct, yes.
We are going to be doing the dungeon, which it's just the most hype part. Like, it is the biggest potential time loss. It has to be done, in my opinion. But you can actually do a 1.0, 1.1 exclusive trick where you skip that entire dungeon using like a frog flying through the air glitch, but not going to be seeing that here.
That's right. We are going to see a couple of cool things where we kind of break the whole dimensions of the dungeon. As you can see here, Bayleef is just taking that pillars puzzle, I guess you could call it, and just skipping it entirely with a couple of cat throws.
Yeah, so this this level is supposed, and I mean, for some people also arguably the hardest level in Odyssey. As we said earlier, there are some people that might argue that the bullet bill room in Darkside can be harder, but Bayleef is going to be doing that with some very precise movement at the start, but he's also going to be utilizing some very major skips inside of the level, one of them coming up pretty soon. He's probably actually going to be doing that without the uproot, which is time to be faster. Let's see how well he can perform that.
That jump there is probably the trickiest part, and he's nailed it. And oh, just missing the cycle for the fuzzies there, which means he's gonna have to hurry if he doesn't want to take damage here. When he gets it.
Yeah, so the only risk with taking damage here is not actually going to be any damage refills because there's no moons you pick up along the way. It's just going to be actually being low on health. Because once again, there's no checkpoints in this stage. So, and notoriously, Tim is actually getting pretty close to visiting Darker Side on his own. And the biggest skip we do here is called the Glidon skip at the very end, where we use Glidon and fly in some of these like gusts of wind. Timpani's actually done. So this just goes to show if Bayleef, for example, and I was right about to say that skip can be quite risky because sometimes those gusts just don't give you enough height. And if that was to happen to Bayleef and he was to take a death right there, that could end up actually him being behind even. At this
Indeed,
point.
yep. Or pretty close to anyway. Timpani is now approaching the start of the dungeon.
But yeah, Timpani still playing pretty well and once again making himself room here to actually have a small chance of still taking this one back. Once again, Glidon skip is going to be coming up on Bayleef's screen. If he was to miss that at the very end here, I'm pretty sure they would literally be tight heading into the replay of the Darker Side. But it's all going to be about this one here, and Bayleef gets a huge amount of height. That's what you want to get. So if he doesn't mess up his shakes here and his positioning with Glidon, he should be fine. You need to space yourself out just fine to be just slightly towards the to left of these sections, because if you are too close to the right, Glidon will just despawn and you'll fall.
There's kind of like a kill box around this final platform that if Glidon enters it at any point, he will just kind of act as if he's died, basically. And Mario will pop out and you'll be left to fall in the lava and you'll have to do the whole level again.
Yeah, you also don't want to be too far to the left, otherwise bad things can happen, but Bayleef getting it, and only really one small trick that I'm not even sure if he's going to do it. That saves like a tiny bit amount of time at the very end, can basically, that's like the 2D skip 2.0, I guess. When we look at any percent, it's like one last thing that can really screw him over. I guess in this, a close race could even be decided at the very last climb. But he might do the infamous letter skip. I'm sure he's going to do it actually at this point.
Yeah, right there.
Pretty. You need to be ready for that strat. You don't want to lose your run to that.
It isn't particularly, it's kind of like the 2D skip. It's not particularly risky, but again, if you don't actually know what you're doing, then you could be throwing your run away.
It's probably easier than the 2D skip. It's just even more risky. Like, you actually would lose more time.
Yeah, Bayleef is approaching the final stretch here. Just got to climb this incredibly hyper-extended version of the New Dog City Hall. And Cappy is saying something in Japanese about how you guys have had such a lovely journey together in all of 3.5 hours.
And it really has been. And Bayleef has been showing his consistency here one more time with a pretty incredible run, ending this one with a 3:19:20 according to our time, which is pretty much around 2 minutes behind world record, which is quite crazy thinking about how this run was going early, getting that death in sand, probably losing like 40 seconds or something to downstairs clipping.
Indeed, yep. That was
So
probably the biggest time loss in the run there. But otherwise, entirely consistent. Like we said, there was maybe only one moment that I can really think of in the post game, or maybe two, that Bayleef slipped up for more than a couple seconds. He might not go for the hardest strats, but he definitely does the ones that he does consistently.
Yeah, and he does them well. That's very important. And that's why he currently is the world record holder, as he basically jumps off a cliff and dies. But Timpani approaching the swings here, definitely doing it for the people and showing off his massive knowledge. He's actually he's actually fluent in Japanese, as we see right here. So he can just answer this quiz because he just knows, you know.
He knows the answers.
But yeah, GG's to Bayleef, winning that one, the first showcase we ever had here in GSA. And once again, these runs get pretty high pressure and high tension at the very end because it's not a very uncommon, like obviously Bayleef here being the world record holder in this category. I'm pretty confident on his Darker Side too, but it's not uncommon to see people lose runs or PBs in that last, like for example, Timpani here not getting enough height from that gust. So he's going to be going for a retry here, hopefully getting enough height with this one. Still not looking actually too good, and this can happen. Let's see if he can actually end up getting enough height on that last gust of wind. This is looking too low.
Looks like he might be attempting the darker side escape sequence for the people. Oh no, he's going for the whole dungeon.
I was right about to say, it's not even that, and that's probably arguably the hardest part of darker side. And I'm not sure. I'm actually not sure, like that might seem like a troll call, but in this case, I think it is definitely faster to attempt that, and he knows like his skip there, he's going to be skipping that entire platform. And that's obviously still faster than ending up to die.
Indeed.
And this is actually what makes darker side the hardest like level for some people, especially this Pokio section. It's like also that section before, it's so easy to take damage in, but Timpani is he's just cleaning up. He knows how to do that.
Yes. Showing how good he is at the video game.
That is actually going to end up being that he is still going to be needing to, and we did actually kind of meme about that earlier, that we won't see Bowser again. We will though.
We will now.
He's going to be refight. He's going to be doing the darker side escape sequence here, going into that painting.
And a little bit of like a remix of the escape sequence earlier, a little bit of a different path.
And once again, I'm quite sure that it either is close or still pretty confidently would have been faster for him to do this instead of dying and starting up from the very start, because once again this section, and wow, even doing that small skip there. So Timpani definitely has done this before without skips.
Yeah, very well practiced.
At more than once, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely something I didn't even know.
And yeah, looking at this is still way faster than if he would have died. So that actually ends up not even being like a meme decision, but just a better choice as far as the speedrun goes. And he's only really having letter skip and his climb to go. But once again, really enjoyed that showcase here. Had a lot of fun also commentating this one. There's so much to explain. I feel like I have talked non-stop for 3.5 hours, and even still there's stuff we missed and stuff we could have like explained more and stuff you could dive into more. But that's just the way like this category ends up.
And I mean, this game, there's been so much effort and like so many people involved in making this game such a good speed game, that, you know, there's just so many little facets and so many tricks and so many optimizations that we've all come up with and been able to work out that just make this such a good game to speedrun.
And Timp timing his thank you just right there, basically underlining what you just said. This game is a huge team effort. The speedrun, especially this route, this category is a huge team effort. And I'm looking forward to potentially see more. And I think that showcase once again just showed, even though Bayleef just slowly but surely obtained a pretty confident lead, up until the very end, it wasn't actually decided. So if Timpani had a clean darker side and Bayleef would have ended up getting what Timpani had happened to him, this would have been incredibly close still. So pretty sure this can be a pretty exciting race category going forward.
Indeed.
But this one was very hype, as Timp probably tries to get some kind of meme time.
Oh,
The 3:24:45, getting the capture, GG's, a lot of fun. And yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
Yep. And even Oddme says, still bopped me as well. That's a top 3 time right there. So still very impressive.
What's up, man? I appreciate you, Tiffany, before I say anything for doing this. GG's for finishing, GG's for pulling through. Do you want to say something as far as this race went?
It wasn't a race.
Which is something I wouldn't agree with, because we just literally mentioned that. It literally, like in Darker Side, it was still not decided. Like if Bayleef had happened to him, what happened to you with his height with Glidon, it could have been incredibly close, literally.
I mean, the Glidon was intentional.
Okay, but you know that it can happen. We've seen people have that happen to him unintentionally.
I mean, that was probably the only intentional thing in that run. everything else was just awful. Like, I'm shocked that I didn't get a 330. That's pretty much the long and short of what I can say about that run. I have nothing positive to say about it. So,
Well, I do, though. Pretty sure I've seen a lot of people saying that the Lost 2 you've had was probably the best they've ever seen. And in my opinion, probably as well. I've not seen a Lost 2 as clean as that before. That's something that I can definitely say from my side. But let me also go to Bayleef, obviously, who was actually ending up getting a pretty solid time even still after that early game for sure. I've actually said that previously. I think that post game was going pretty well. I don't know how you would Reese.
So looking at my splits, so obviously I died in sand, the bullet bill, because I dove too late. And then I had lost 45 seconds on snow clip. But I actually, when I made it back to Metro, I was only 25 seconds behind my PB. So very solid game. That was kind of crazy. I didn't think I'd catch back up.
Yeah, your post game was like incredibly consistent.
I was gonna be upset if I like PB'd.
I was literally thinking that as you picked like track 4, I was like, wait, might he actually be on PB pace because the way you've been playing so consistently? I mean, at this point it was probably that already, but just looking back, the post game just seemed nice. Yeah. Looking back, the post game just seemed very nice. That's why I thought it. But I mean,
I was 35 behind at that point, so I just decided to bust out a baggage of bait, even though I lost like 20 seconds on it.
Yeah, whatever. I'd like to mention Timpani. Your loss to was actually probably the cleanest I have ever seen. Did you gold that split? That seemed really, really good.
I was doing luncheon 3. I had no splits.
Ah, right. I see. But it was incredibly clean.
Yeah, something you could potentially retime if you care enough. There obviously was like still that little bonking, but other than that, looked pretty flawless. And even though not every racer can always be super happy with their performance, I do still want to show appreciation to Timpani for doing that at that very scary EU time. It is 4:40 for me.
Well, I'm actually going to be honest. I actually was tempted to say I couldn't do it because I've been feeling sick all day. So no sleep, really sick. Still did it anyways.
And that deserves some love, in my opinion. And I was still happy to cast. I had a lot of fun, and I think people in chat had a lot of fun even still. And yeah, I think that was a success, at least for GSA. And I do want to thank, obviously, Dangerous. I had a ton of fun also commentating this one with you.
It was a great time. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. And going forward, I do want to thank all of you viewers for tuning in. Huge shout outs to Rex one more time, and also to everybody that stayed in here. Also, Schulz with the donation, with the bits, being a legend as always. And thank you guys so much for joining. Make sure to follow the Twitch channel. Make sure to follow both of these Twitch partners actually as they proceed on growing their stream and doing some runs in the future, obviously, of these categories. Bayleef, we might see him in GDQ. Let's hope. Let's hope together for the submission being a success. Let's see this category on the big stage. And thank you so much for joining. And see you on the next one.